Now, back to Dirty Work. Adam Copeland and Derek Papa on KNBR 104.5 and 680 AM, the sports leader.
Dirty Work on a Wednesday evening. Adam Copeland, D-Pop with you. We're joined on the UMA guest line now by Andy Baggerly. He covers the Giants for The Athletic. The Giants fell to a 10-9, leading by 6 runs in the 9th inning. Bags is sponsored by the Dolan Law Firm. They live here, they work here, they win here. DolanLawFirm.com. Andy, what's going on, man? How are you?
A little stunned, processing, still trying to write my story, which bears no resemblance to the story that I had mostly written a little while earlier. Wow. I mean, they're not boring. They're not a boring team. Well, we can say that much about them, but they were pretty roundly booed at the end of this one. And when you have the worst 9th inning blown lead in franchise history in a loss, you understand why. I mean, wow. Yeah, just stunning.
Yeah, it's what I was saying to Derek. I was like, I was here for this game, and Derek said he wasn't all that surprised just because of what the bullpen's done. And I said, even for how the bullpen's been and the guys that were out there, this was a stunning loss. I mean, nobody's ever seen this before. Coming to Oracle Park, going to Candlestick, going to Seal Stadium, going to the Polo Grounds. It had never happened. We'd never seen a team blow a lead like this. Now, I haven't heard Tony Vitello's audio after the game, but he was ejected early in the game and watched this one from afar. But he seemed visibly frustrated just in the little video clip that I saw.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was. You know, he watched it in the clubhouse, argued a check swing call 5 batters into the game. You know, he's trying to defend his pitcher. Logan Webb's coming off a tough start.
Yeah.
He's feeling like he's got to do more to defend his guys. And I mean, it wasn't a swing. Even Logan Webb said it wasn't a swing. But, you know, he's trying to defend his guys and really didn't say a whole lot and then got ejected. And we've seen some umpires have had a pretty quick hook with them. And maybe there's a little more baked into that. I think with some umpires, pretty clearly they've shown maybe a little contempt for him. And that's part of the deal, you know, as someone who's coming with his background of never being in pro ball before. It doesn't make it fair. It doesn't make it right. But, you know, he obviously wasn't really around to manage the rest of this game. But, you know, Rafael Devers looks like he could hit 40 homers this year. I mean, he's locked in, hits a splash homer. You know, Shea Whitcomb puts a charge into one. Jonah Cox. I mean, there were a lot of good things happening in this game. But it's just kind of stunning that this is the 9th time that they've lost a game that they led in the 9th inning this year. And, you know, even if they flip every one of those, this is not a playoff team, right? But it's just, no matter how conditioned you are to disappointment at this stage, you lose a game like this, it stuns you. It's absolutely a shot to the solar plexus, and that's kind of where they are right now.
Yeah, I mean, historic loss today, Bags, and wouldn't say it's rock bottom by any means when they waved the white flag much earlier this season. That said, Tony wants to win. These guys want to win. They want to get their first sweep of the season. So just what was the vibe in the clubhouse after this demoralizing loss?
I mean, just quiet. You know, there's we talked to Logan Webb. I talked to Dylan Smith, who's an absolute pro. You know, obviously this starts getting away from them when Spencer Bivens, not the home run he allowed to start the inning, but the 2 walks. And then, of course, you mix in a bunt that's not converted into an out and leads to an extra base. And, you know, you had some sloppy play in there, too. We've seen that all year. And, you know, it just seems like more of the same. And, you know, anytime this team has shown a little glimmer of putting together any kind of momentum, you know, they kind of just trip over their own feet. And this was probably the ultimate example of that. Like you said, they're 3 outs away, holding a 6-run lead from their first 3-game sweep of the season. And they're the only team that hasn't done it. And if they don't do it this year, they'll be the first Giants team who hasn't done it since 1915, I think, is the stat I saw. So, yeah, they really desperately want to sweep a series and just feel good about themselves for 5 minutes, you know, and they're not even able to do that.
Talking to Andy Baggerly, covers the Giants for The Athletic. He joins us on the UMA guest line. I was looking today, or just thinking today about, you know, we've talked a lot about roster and where their focus will go this offseason and where they need to improve. But I wonder about, I mean, Tony Vitello came in. They did have one coaching change in season with Hector Borg being replaced at third base by Gary Pettis. I wonder just about, and I'm not looking to talk about calling for somebody's job, but I wonder where the Giants will evaluate what they could be better at with a coaching change, or whether a coaching could improve any one element. I just look at the pitching staff in general, and I go, forget the saves, forget the bullpen. They don't throw a lot of strikes, Bags, and there's a lot of first-year guys here.
Yeah, I mean, clearly there's a lot of very, very fundamental concepts that, you know, they've gone backwards on. And, the hitters need to draw more walks, work more counts, be more selective. The pitchers need to create more count leverage, not walk as many batters. I mean, there were a lot of things that I think went into the previous regime, like the Farhan Zaidi regime. I mean, he was a big believer in strikeout to walk ratio, home run rate, keep the ball in the ballpark and don't walk guys. And that'll take you most of the way, really. And you still need to have some bat missers in there. But that's kind of what this team has gotten away from. The rosters that are kind of high floor rosters where you don't have the superstar players, you can still compete and contend. I mean, last year's team, as disappointing as the season was, they were a 500 team, and they were maybe 2 or 3 games out of being in the playoffs, right? And so they've really gone backwards in a lot of those ways, and that's going to be what they're going to have to re-examine. I would argue it starts from a roster building standpoint and the choices that they make, and then from there it's okay. How do we squeeze a little more juice out of the orange? And that's where you really have to take a look at the coaching staff.
Talking to Andy Baggerly on the UMA guest line. Andy, your reaction to the unfortunate news for Carson Whisenhunt suffering a torn UCL and having to have Tommy John along with Trevor McDonald?
Yeah, it feels like the Giants kind of escaped, the beast on this one for a long time. They had a long stretch where they really didn't lose any top prospects or really good players to Tommy John surgery. Some of their pitching prospects, really from Jesse Foppert, I think all the way you could trace another 15 years. I know that's something Dave Righetti was very proud of. They were able to get these guys to the big leagues and get them, to have contracts. Even Noah Lowry was able to get, a multi-year contract through his ARB years. But, it's tough. The way you ask so much of your pitchers to throw so hard these days. And, the guys who are getting hurt aren't exactly guys who are, throwing 99-mile-an-hour gas. But we did see Hayden Birdsong go down in spring training. And now you're seeing Whisenhunt and Trevor McDonald. I don't think this is anything that you put on like the coaches or you put on the training staff. I think this is just modern baseball, and the Giants were fortunate enough to avoid a good stretch of it where it was really affecting the rest of the league. And now, maybe this is just sort of regressing to the mean a little bit. And, all that aside, on a very personal level, you feel terrible for a Carson Whisenhunt who was, again, it's just like what we're talking about. Once you start to show a glimmer of something positive where you can really feel good about yourself, he was putting together a nice start the other day, and then boom, feels it on a pitch and tries to throw another, and then that's it. So you feel for him it's going to be a long road back. But McDonald had his procedure, just earlier this month. So it's got to be tough, man. I mean, these guys do this because they love to compete for the most part, and you got that taken away from you for more than a year. So it's going to be a long road back for them.
Talking to Bags, a few more minutes here on the UMA guest line. I don't think it was an overstatement when the Giants acquired Rafael Devers that a lot of us thought and said this is the best talent-wise power hitter they've had or acquired since they had Barry Bonds. And now he's doing things at Oracle Park that only Bonds had ever done, right? I mean, he's hit his 17th home run of the season today in this ballpark and a towering, pretty impressive splash hit. I really don't think this ballpark is affecting him all that much. I think he's a slow starter, but it does seem like he's kind of coming back to the mean here, Bags.
You know what? I would love to have a conversation with him because he doesn't talk to us very often, obviously. Right. I think we were hoping we could talk to him after today's game, but then, the story obviously changed. But I would love to ask him, did that series in Fenway almost kind of give you closure a little bit? You have that experience, whether they booed you, appreciated you, cheered you, whatever. It almost helps you tie a bow on it, and then you come back home, and it feels like home, as opposed to I'm a mercenary, and this is where I've been traded to. I don't know. I don't even know if he would. He seems kind of dismissive of questions like that, so I don't think he'd even get an answer. But I do wonder. It's probably human nature. You have an experience like that where you go to Boston, and maybe it just does allow you to kind of close the loop a little bit. And clearly he looks comfortable now here. I think he does have the opportunity to be a fan favorite here. I would love it, obviously, as someone who, likes to introduce players to fans and sort of make that connection. And, I would love it if he shared a little more of himself with us, which he hasn't yet, but that's his prerogative. So if you do great things on the field, you're going to get cheered. And, whether you're Rafael Devers or Barry Bonds or whoever. So, he's having what's going to turn into a good year. It could even be a 40 homer year, really. And you look at the whole lineup is completely disintegrated around him. I mean, Jung-Hoo Lee scratched before the first pitch, and it's Rafael Devers is the only guy left holding this whole thing up. And by the way, he's played in every game this year.
Yeah.
And Tony Vitello says he's going to give him a day or two off down the stretch. I don't think so. That's what Tony says. I don't believe him. I don't think Rafael Devers is going to miss a game this year. I think he's probably going to play in both ends of Saturday's doubleheader because I think that's what he loves to do. He's got the third longest consecutive game streak in the major leagues. He played 163 games last year. And, he's obviously not a part of the problem. I think we can very, very clearly say that.
Staying on Devers, red hot series and doing it with an inexperienced lineup. And, of course, Devers has received a ton of criticism since becoming a Giant. But John Shea on our airwaves earlier today said that he's been more of a mentor of late. Have you seen that as well, Andy?
Hard to see. We're not in the clubhouse. We see when guys come out and do their work. That's what I think we've been told. That's what Tony Vitello said, that Devers has been someone who will speak up in hitters' meetings. So, yeah, I think you just go based on that. And that's what the manager says. So, he's someone who's been around the block. He's been a part of a World Series team. He's, been the super young guy. He was in the big leagues barely, 19, 20 years old. So this guy's seen a lot in his career before his 30th birthday. And, anything he can do to kind of share any of that wisdom with his teammates is something that I'm sure everyone's going to be listening to.
Last one for me, Bags, before we let you go. The flop today from Landon Roop, who's supposed to be the starter to Logan Webb. I know there was talk before the game, maybe that was just to go for the sweep. Do we know that was the reason, or was there anything else behind this?
No, it really came from Logan, and his thought process was a couple things. One, he only threw 2 innings in Boston because it was a bad start, so
right.
He didn't throw that many pitches, and so he didn't need the extra day, really. But he knew that Landon Roop could use the extra day because Roop is way past however many innings he's thrown in a professional season. So I think he's both thinking, hey, I don't need to cool my heels for another day because I kind of had a short start. And, I got this young teammate who, probably could use the extra day
sure.
Just to rest and recover. So that kind of came from Logan himself. Everybody was on board with it, so that's why they did it.
Well, good stuff. Good leadership from Logan Webb there, too. And deserve better in terms of a victory today. I'm sure he's thinking to himself, how did I get a loss in that, or not get a win in that one? Andrew Baggerly covers the Giants for The Athletic. He joins us every week. Your Bags, appreciate the time. Good luck finishing the story, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Andy.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, man. All right, good stuff there. Adam Copeland, Derek Papa with you until 6 o'clock tonight. Dude, I'm not going to be with you tomorrow, man.
We'll be okay.
Oh, dude. Wow. Danny, did you catch that, dude?
Jesus.
Dude, holy crap, man.
I'm looking forward to a little Rick action.
What are you going to do?
He said, we'll be okay.
You're doing bigger and better things, doing 49ers pregame with John Dickinson, and I'll do my little show with Rick Tittle tomorrow.
Walk it back now, dude.
Sorry, you caught me off guard there. I didn't know where we're going there.
Yeah, I bet you
I'll
did.
miss you too.
I didn't say all that much. I was like, oh, man, I'm not going to be there tomorrow.
Yeah, I know.
You know why I got into this business, dude, to talk on KSFO.
Yes.
We will take a quick break. When we come on back, we'll put the show to bed. It's Dirty Work. It's a Wednesday. It's only here on the Sports Leader.
Now, from the O'Donnell Financial Group Sports Desk. Learn more at odfigroup.com. O'Donnell Financial Group, because planning is a process, not a product.
Holy crap. The Giants had a 9-3 lead in the top of the ninth, on their way to their first season sweep, and just like that, it's gone. Giants lose 10-9. It's the biggest collapse in the ninth inning for the Giants since 1901. Giants fans, this season's been brutal enough. But that game is a huge kick to the beans. Call in now, 415-808-5627. We're here for you.
Time for Dirty Work to put the show to bed
Are you crazy? I don't need a bed.
on the Sports Leader.
Now you will go to sleep, or I will put you to sleep.
Dirty Work on a Wednesday evening. Adam Copeland, D-Pop, Danny Dunn with you. I'm live from the broadcast booth at Oracle Park where the Giants lost today. Unsurprising loss. Surprising how it happened is what I'll say.
Okay, that's
10
fair.
to 9. I think that's
fair.
the path I'll go with, or go down here. As the Giants fall 10 to 9 after leading at 9-3. They had never in franchise history lost a game in which they led by 6 or more runs in the ninth inning. You might think, like, how often does that happen? Well, going back to 1901, they were 2,208-0 in such games where they led by 6 or more in the ninth. They're now 2,208-1 after losing this one. So some history made today. And I'm sorry that Johnny D didn't get the kiss, man.
Oh, Johnny D. He'll be okay. He'll be okay.
He said,
I have faith in Johnny D.
Johnny D, our caller from earlier, said he's up from Fresno, his first time coming to the ballpark ever. And thought it was going to be a great game. Thought it was a good game. Giants were going good. They were up 9-3. He said he met a lady. He said, "Dude, actually, she follows me on Instagram." And I said, "I almost got a kiss. Might have gotten the kiss if they won the game."
Damn.
Oh man, dude.
What do you think the D stands for? Dangerously? Going back to Michael Keaton, of course.
And then don't forget, I was like, "So did you get her number or anything?" He's like, "Guys, I was there for the ball.
Yeah,
I was there for ball.
I was all focused on a Giants win
I was
today.
focused for ball." I was like,
And damn it, it didn't happen.
I bet you were there for ball. That'll
Yeah.
be Johnny D. Anyway, I should tell you, we got one more thing I got to get off my chest here, Derek.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
And what's that?
It's the Dirty Work is sponsored by Redwood Credit Union.
Oh.
Excuse me. Yeah, it is sponsored by Redwood Credit Union.
Okay.
For you, for community, for 75 years. Join RCU today at redwoodcu.org. Krug at the top of the hour here with a little Niners Nightly. And then you got our guy, Ted Ramey, Bald Ramey.
Hell yeah.
Coming up at
With Chips
7 o'clock.
McCarthy?
With Chips and Bald combination here.
There you go.
With a Sports Phone KMBR from 7 until 9 following Niners Nightly. So we got to get out of here. I will be not with you tomorrow. I'll be with
And
John
I'm crushed
Dickinson.
about that, Copes.
Yeah,
I'm crushed.
Just shut up, dude. I don't even want to just shut it. Tomorrow, 2 o'clock over on KSFO 810. Myself and John Dickinson. I'll be going head-to-head with my very own show, Dirty Work. Listen to this, please. It's better for me.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Listen to
Everybody
Derek
listen to Copes tomorrow. That's the bigger deal. Me and Rick will be just goofing off the whole time.
That's not going to help our staying power, dude. Don't listen to me. Listen to no. Please listen to Derek.
I'm just being honest.
I'm going to drive people to Derek on Niner pregame.
I'm just being
I'm
honest.
sure the Niners will be thrilled about that.
It's going to be me in a Raider jersey tomorrow.
Yeah, are you going to wear one?
I'm thinking about it.
Are
No,
you
I'm
really?
kidding. I'm kidding.
Come on, dude. Wear one. Wear a Brady jersey.
Brady?
Yeah, dude. That's your guy.
What are you talking about?
He's a Raider.
No, I'm not wearing a Brady jersey.
The Brady is a Raider.
Yeah.
All right.
Make it a 12 Brady jersey?
2 to 4 tomorrow. Niner pregame over on KSFO 810. And then kick off at 5 o'clock Niners and the Las Vegas Raiders. And then Derek and Rick Tittle. How about that?
Ricky
I like
T,
that tomorrow.
baby.
Ricky T tomorrow with Derek on Dirty Work, taking you all the way up to Giants pregame against the Arizona Diamondbacks. All right, Derek. Not Derek. Danny, we got a note to self as we put the show to bed?
Note to self, I was on the board for the biggest comeback and the biggest collapse this season.
Well, it's all about you, Dan, huh?
Yeah, it's all about Dan.
you, huh?
Always
It's not about the Giants.
Remember that for the dips tomorrow. It's all about Dan. Note to self. I teased some Mike Evans update earlier. This is courtesy of Jeremy Fowler. 49ers wide receiver Mike Evans plans to play week 1 despite dealing with injuries this camp. His latest, a groin issue, is considered minor, barring a change. I'm sure Larry Kruger will discuss that tonight on Niners Nightly.
God, we're going to talk some groin.
Talking groin.
We're talking groin here. And note to self. It sounds like Derek will be just fine without me tomorrow.
I'll find a way. I'll find a way.
Like, oh, I'm not going to be with you tomorrow. You're like, yeah. It's all right.
Hey, man, we're doing it all. We're dipping. We're bagging. I think
You're
me
bagging tomorrow, too?
Hey, man, we need the bits. Tittle likes the bits.
I asked you to bag multiple times all the time. You better
Hey,
have
man,
a good start.
when someone new comes in your life, you're going to bag more than usual. You know what I mean?
This is unbelievable. It's just the disrespect and just like I'm a piece of gum on the bottom of your shoe.
Hey, man, you'll have a great time with Tim, Oatmeal, and JD tomorrow.
Yeah, dude, I'll be live. By the way, as I'm on KSFO, I will be live from Tim Webb's apartment, dude. Live from the Tim Webb Broadcast Center, bringing you Niners pregame tomorrow at 2. That's going to do it for Dirty Work. Yeah, the Tim Webb Broadcast Center. It's going to do it for Dirty Work on a a Wednesday evening. Thanks to our guest, Andy Baggerly. Thanks to Danny. Did a great job. I know we had a tight window here at the end of the game to get everything in, and you did a really nice, smooth job, as always, Danny. I will miss you tomorrow for sure. And that's it. All right, coming up
Nothing
next,
mean about it.
Larry Krueger with Niners Nightly. We got Ted Ramey with Sports Phone. And for anybody that needs to hear it, it gets easier every day. It gets a little easier. Just got to do it every day. That's the dirty work, but it does get easier. You're listening to KNBR and KNBR FM San Francisco, the sports leader, a Cumulus Media station. Larry Krueger, Talking Groins, starts now.
I'm a fool to do your dirty work. Go, yeah. I don't want to do your dirty work no more.
It's time to bring the 49ers to the forefront.
It's go time. This is the best team that they can put on the field this year.
Welcome to Niners Nightly.
You guys are going to hear it. The latest from the locker room, the latest from the podium, the latest scuttle from the players.
On your proud home of 49ers football. Touchdown! KNBR, the sports leader. Your faithful fix with your host, Larry Krueger, begins.
Take phone calls, talk Niners for a full hour. Fired up. Really excited.
Now.
And away we go. Welcome. It's Larry Krueger back with you. It is Niners Nightly on a Wednesday. I think we all could use a little Niners Nightly after that. Gag job. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. That was the worst gag job I have ever seen in sports. Unbelievable Giants gag job. A buddy of mine called me this morning. He's like, hey, man, I think because I think I'm betting the Giants today. I think they're going to sweep. I'm like, dude, I ain't touching that. I heard the lineup, and I'm like, they had like, Basabe and hitting fourth. The middle of the lineup just sounded horrible. And I'm like, no, dude, I can't do it. I can't jump aboard. Oh my God. He called me this afternoon and was just like, can you believe that? I'm like, yes, I can believe that. Oh my God, what a gag. Just an unbelievable gag. All right. We'll leave the poor Giants alone. If they were, they should have been taken out back and put out of their misery weeks ago. God, unbelievable tire fire of a season. What an unbelievable gag job. And then Tony's at the presser. I just can't. I can't. I don't even want to. I don't even know why I went down this road. Gag. That is just the worst gag. 2026 San Francisco Giants. All right, that felt good. Get that off my chest right away. That was pathetic. Oh my God. If there's ever a reason to just turn it off, that's it right there. All right. In addition to that, you got the Niners starting up, and wow, what a week it's been in Niner land. Maybe we started with the Giants so we wouldn't have to start with Jed. What an unbelievable week. Niners back on the field tomorrow. Preseason game number 3, third and final preseason game. I'll be part of the pregame and postgame until they hear this segment, and then all of a sudden they'll be like, whoa, this guy just tore into the Giants. I don't know if we should have Krueger around, man. He's bad karma. Oh, dude. I mean, what a disaster today. But the story of the day, we always start with 49er news, and we have a great hour for you. The fantastic one, Jordan Elliott, not the former Niner D lineman, but the guy who covers the 49ers and other sports for NBC Sports Bay Area. He's going to join us, and we will talk all things 49ers, including the cut down, who's on the bubble, all the competitive stuff going on tomorrow night. But we always start with today in Niner news, and unfortunately, the Jed York thing is not really just a one-day thing, but it's going to be gone before we know it. But Al Guido, not Jed York, represented the 49ers today at the NFL owners meetings in Atlanta, where the league approved the sale, the $9.6 billion sale of the Seattle Seahawks. Paul Allen's heirs are selling off his fortune, bit by bit with all of the money to go to charity. How about that? That's an unbelievable story. So Jed was not at the owners' meetings. Al Guido was there, representing the 49ers at the NFL's owners' meetings. Now, TMZ also today released the body cam video of Jed's arrest in Ohio, and all I would say is don't watch it. It's just it doesn't make you feel better. If anything, it just makes you feel bad. I mean, I feel bad. I don't, obviously he's a grown man. He made his own decision. He's going to have to make it. He made his bed. He's going to lie in it. But wow. Just minivan pulled over, Yankee t-shirt, looking disheveled. Why are you pulling me over when you damn well knew why you were being pulled over? Just really bad stuff. Bad stuff all the way around. So I'm sure it's something the 49ers would like to just, bury, forget about, but he's the owner of the team. And if you see that video today, I'm sure you probably have. If you haven't, it's readily available on social media. We could play it, but I'm not going to. Why? Once again, my only question to Jed would be why, and my other question would be why would we play that? It's just just what you would expect. Really sad deal. And I just I don't know Jed personally, but man, it just seems like a cry for help. This is a man who's worth $500 million. This is a man whose family's worth $8.5 billion. And he's in a trailer park in Ohio paying $140. Wow. Ugly story. Shanahan insisted yesterday when I asked him that it would have no impact on the 49ers on the football field. And I don't know. I kind of agree with him on that. I really don't think. I mean, I know the players. I talk to the players. I know the coaches. I talk to the coaches. I'm not saying that Jed has zero impact on them, but I just think this situation, Fred Warner, he was asked about it yesterday. He's like, no, we're not talking about it in the locker room. What? Now, come on, Fred. Come on, bro. Just be straight, be straight with us. You are talking about it in the locker room. Doesn't mean it's going to dominate their thoughts or dominate their, they're preparing for the Rams and they're singularly focused. And he said, hey, look, that's what's on our plate. The Rams, we got enough on our plate not to have to worry about this kind of stuff. But, you can be doing two things at once, and you could be preparing like hell for the Rams and still, in your private moments in that locker room going, dude, what's up with bro? That kind of conversation is going on in their room. So that's kind of the backdrop of the week. Niners getting ready to head to Vegas. And Kyle Shanahan has said that hardly any starters are going to play because there's a ton of injuries. Niners have like 25 guys. Or I saw today like some 23 guys not practicing in the last practice, something like that. Niners also continue to look for defensive ends. Today they looked at Ja Joyner, who I've had on the show before. Good guy, pretty good pass rusher. Him and Strigow were the edge rushers for Danny Strigow for Minnesota, the Golden Gophers. And he was on with the Raiders. Joyner's got some speed. He's got some talent. So he had a visit with the 49ers. Niners are just desperate for any kind of edge rush help. I mean, really, really desperate. Some people don't think the Niners are going to be very good. Jason McCourty on ESPN today said that he thinks the Niners Super Bowl window is closed. And I would say, that's a guy who's covering the thing from 3,000 miles away and hasn't been to a practice. Because, it's easy to look at the older guys that everybody knows the names and go, oh, yeah, they're older. But this team has a lot of young talent that's ascending. And if you're not at practice, you're not seeing it. And most likely you don't know those names. So I don't blame McCourty, but I think he's wrong. I do think the 49ers Super Bowl window remains open. And there are those who believe that, it's been closed since they lost the last Super Bowl, but I think it's open. As far as tomorrow night, big battles at left guard, defensive end, linebacker, safety, backup wide receiver, backup O-line. Because come Sunday, 1,184 players are going to get pink slips, and they're going to be cut as NFL rosters are pared from 90 down to 53 men. And the 49ers have some interesting decisions. And I've already started to look at some of the names that are out there. And there's a lot of speculation right now about players who could potentially be cut or traded. Some of the interesting names on the list, Sam Williams, the defensive end for Dallas. Dallas has got a lot of defensive ends. They just signed Von Miller. Sam Williams, pretty good defensive end, better than what the Niners got. That's for sure. As far as DN5, DN6, the backup guys, Sam Williams would be very attractive if he gets cut loose. That's an interesting name to keep an eye on at the cutdown on Sunday. Will Dallas cut loose Sam Williams, their former Ole Miss star, who's, they got a bunch of defensive ends. But there's other interesting names on this list as well. Roshan Johnson, the former Texas back for Chicago. They're saying he's going to get Tutu Atwell, who's a burner, big-time burner, formerly with the Rams, probably going to be cut by the Dolphins. Man, I'd always be interested in the speed of a Tutu Atwell. I mean, you put that guy on the field, and everybody knows it's like a 5-alarm fire going off, in a defensive coordinator's head. Tutu Atwell alert, because the guy is a blur. He's so fast. He is absolutely cooks in the 40s. So that would be an interesting name if you want to pick a wide receiver with a ton of speed off the waiver wire. You could do a whole lot worse than Tutu Atwell. Guy probably weighs about 150 pounds, but man, he can get deep with the best of them. As far as 49ers of interest who potentially could be cut, there's a lot of speculation about a couple veteran guys that they signed in the offseason. Christian Kirk, who's battled a calf injury a lot of camp, and Nate Hobbs, who also is injured. We'll see. We'll see if those guys make the team. I mean, they were signed in the offseason with the plan is to put them on the team. The Niners, as I said, not going to play the regulars. Shanahan said very few, if any, 49er starters will play in Vegas. Niners, I think, had 20. I said 23. 25 players that were on the injured list that missed practice the other day. No other NFL team has more than 16. The Raiders, who are their opponent tomorrow night, have one guy hurt, and the Niners have 25. Raiders have one. What the heck are they doing? Now, the Raiders aren't the most talented. What is it? Bad players don't get hurt? Maybe that's it. If you're no good and you're probably not going to make the team, there's no way you would take a day off. I can't figure that, though. One Raider is hurt and 25 Niners are hurt. I thought that was kind of interesting. The big thing for the 49ers is, and by the way, Jeremy Fowler, you heard Depop report at the end of Dirty Work that Jeremy Fowler, ESPN, says Mike Evans plans to play week 1. So a lot of the injuries that the Niners have are kind of like, hey, if there was a game, we'd play, but there is no game, so we'll sit it out. And Evans is, they've been babying Evans for good reason. He's 32. He's coming off a year where he was hurt. Why stretch Mike Evans in August? It's a long, long year. If you have it your way, you're going to be playing ball second week in February, and we're still in late August. So I'd slow play Kittle and Evans and Bosa and CMC and all these guys, who are a little bit long in the tooth. One interesting NFL note today on a non-49er note, the NFL is no longer going to hold any form of a Pro Bowl game. The Pro Bowl is officially donezo. First of its kind. Baseball still does its All-Star game. NBA still does whatever you want to call their version of the All-Star game. It's nothing compared to what it was in the 70s. Or 80s for that matter. But the NFL, the Pro Bowl, the guys are too valuable. Nobody can afford to get hurt. But the big thing, I think, for the 49ers, the big theme is the 49ers have a good team. I think they got some age on offense, but Brock Purdy looks phenomenal. They've got speed at receiver they didn't have a year ago. I think they're bolstered on the offensive line. They've got better depth. We'll see if they can get Kittle back in a timely fashion, but Kalen Black, Jordan James, now with CMC, they got a lot more at running back. They're just a little bit more dynamic weapon-wise. They've just a little bit more dynamic speed. The big issue for the Niners is pass rush. And it's really as simple as that. And I don't think I want to sit here and say, hey, you know what? They've done enough, but they haven't. I'd love to sit here and say it's good enough, but it isn't. I mean, and there's just no doubt about that. The 49ers badly need to trade for a veteran edge rusher. Last year, they were dead last in sacks, 32nd, 20 sacks, 6 fewer than the lowly Jets, who were 31st in the NFL. So they were dead last by a country mile. What did they add? They added Romello Height. Romello Height, I like him. Good dude. He's a light, 238-pound situational rusher. He's not a first and second down player. I mean, I can see that just from looking at him on the field. He's just not enough sand in those pants to anchor against the run. He's not a run player at all. So he's a situational rusher. Nick Bosa, love him, hasn't practiced in 3 weeks. I don't think it's something to be overly concerned about because he's sprinting on the sidelines and he looks very healthy, but he hasn't practiced in 3 weeks, and he's your only real pass rusher. Mikael Williams is likely out week 1, and he's got 1 career sack. We don't even know what kind of heat he can dial up outside. So far, not good. Sam Aquinu and Keon White might be their best 2 defensive ends opposite Bosa. I love those guys, but Sam's got 6.5 career sacks in 3 years. Keon White's got 7.5 career sacks in 3 years. This is not LT in his prime. And then the parade of guys off the street has already begun. Viliami Fehoko, who was the Mountain West Defensive Player of the Year, great player at San Jose State. Let's see what he's got, right? Let's see what he's got. But he doesn't have a lot of bend, doesn't have a lot of burst, doesn't have a lot of twitch, not that fast, not that dominant. You wouldn't expect him to be. He's available, and it's late August. They signed him. They signed Victor Dimukeje. He's got 4 career sacks. They signed Quentin Bell. He's got 1 career sack. The Niners have 10 young defensive backs. They got 10 young DBs, guys that are like 25, 26 or younger. What do young DBs need? A pass rush up front. Ogbo Okonkwo might help. He's got 17 career sacks, but they got to do something, and they got to do something soon. As far as who's out there, Hassan Reddick is a free agent. Kyle Van Noy, Leonard Floyd has experience with Raheem Morris, Preston Smith. You know what? I think I'd call up Monty Ossenfort, the Arizona Cardinals GM, and just find out what's it going to take to trade for Josh Sweat. He wants out. They're in the division, but they're obviously rebuilding. What do they want? What would they take for Josh Sweat? If the Niners could get a Josh Sweat and put him opposite Nick Bosa, I'd feel a whole lot better than I feel right now. So, and there's been some great stories in Niner camp, by the way. It's not like, oh my God, doom and gloom, but they don't have enough edge rush. They don't. They absolutely don't. And they're going to have to find some. The big questions going into tomorrow, what are you going to do with Curtis Rourke? He's not going to play. Do you put him on IR? Do you trade him? Do you cut him? What happens with Curtis Rourke? I was looking at Nick Wagner's ESPN.com breakdown of the roster. He's got them taking 7 wide receivers. 7. That's a ton, including Christian Kirk and Jacob Cowing. He's got 9 offensive linemen, including Brett Toth. I think Brett Toth has been horrible, absolutely horrible. I'd be shocked if Brett Toth made this team. He doesn't have Bryson Eason on his final 53. I think Eason is a huge talent. He's got 7 linebackers, including both Gifford and Wallow, a couple special teamers, but no Larry Worth III, who I think is going to be the star of tomorrow night's game. Look for that kid. 47 on defense. What a week he's had. He dominates tight ends. This guy smothers tight ends. This might be your secret weapon against any great tight end. I wish the Niners had this kid a few years ago in the Super Bowl against Kelsey. And he is so good against the tight ends. I would say at least 2-3 times a week, he locks up the tight end, and you're like, whoa. He was smothering the tight end. Larry Worth III can flat out cover the tight end. So that kid's fun to watch. I'm looking for him tomorrow night. And then, the other big question is, how many corners are you going to go with? You're going to keep cutting good young corners every year and then needing them a month later, and they're not available. They're on the Colts. They're on the Steelers. They're on a different team. The Niners, some people have them going with 5 corners. I think they ought to go with 7. Keep Jacob Robinson, keep Darrell Luter. So these are all decisions that are going to get made in the next few days. But tomorrow night's the final kind of whatever you got. Let's see it, right? Deion Jones came in, by the way, and is that a statement about the injuries at linebacker, or is that a statement that Jaden Duggar and Nick Martin and Larry Worth are too raw to play from scrimmage in the eyes of Raheem Morris? I thought that was an interesting move, and we'll see him tomorrow night and see what the 31-year-old Deion Jones has left in the tank. So if you want to chime in, 808-KMBR is the phone number. We'll take a timeout right here. We're going to welcome in the great Jordan Elliott. We'll hit a bunch of topics, including, sadly, a little bit more on Jed. I'll say this. I hope this Jed thing goes away. Shanahan told me it's not a distraction, but if there's going to be new revelations and new videos and new details, and then it kind of lingers. And that's where the story is right now. It's kind of lingering. One thing I do want to say, and I told Murph and Marcus this morning, as bad as you want to be, as tough as you want to be on Jed, and there's no defending him, right? There's absolutely no defending him, and it's indefensible. This whole action is indefensible, and it does drag the Niners through the mud. It drags the league down. It's an awful moment. It's probably Jed's worst moment. But let's not pretend that Jed has not been an incredibly great owner in the last few years. And I know there's people going, what, Krug? Come on. Incredibly great? Yes. Incredibly great. He has cut the check. They have contended. He has built a really, really successful business team on that side, football team on that side. This thing is not, I've heard a buddy of mine said to me today, man, the Niners are off the rails. And I'm like, bro, I don't want to tell you you're wrong, but bro, you're wrong. They're not off the rails. They're very much on the rails. Why? Al Guido, Brett Schoeb, Stephanie Rogers, people like that on the business side. John Lynch, R.J. Gillen, Brian Hampton, Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah. They're fortified on the football side, and they're fortified on the business side with some really, really talented people that have a lot of success in their past and probably in their future. So bang on Jed all you want, but I think this thing's going to continue to thrive even in whatever absence he has because of the people that he has put in place on both the business side and the football side. And you can laugh at Jed, you can point at Jed, and you can ridicule Jed, but you got to give him credit for that because he's got great people all throughout that building, as good a people as there are. And I think this thing stays very much on the rails. So if you want to weigh in, feel free. Bang out the number 808-KNBR. We won't squelch your thoughts, but up next, we'll talk a little bit more Niners Between the Lines with Jordan Elliott on the Sports Leader.
Now, from the O'Donnell Financial Group Sports Desk, learn more at odfigroup.com. O'Donnell Financial Group, because planning is a process, not a product.
Holy crap. The Giants had a 9-3 lead in the top of the ninth, on their way to their first season sweep, and just like that, it's gone. Giants lose 10-9. It's the biggest collapse in the ninth inning for the Giants since 1901. Giants fans, this season's been brutal enough, but that game is a huge kick to the beans. Call in now, 415-808-5627. We're here for you.
Now, back to Niners Nightly with your host, Larry Krueger, on KNBR, the sports leader. Sports leader.
All right, welcome back to Niners Nightly. Larry Krueger with you on this Wednesday, August the 26th. Hope everybody's having a great one. And joining us on the Yuma guest line to chop it up and talk all things Niners is one of our favorite football analysts. Jordan Elliott does an incredible job, NBC Sports Bay Area. And he's with us on the Yuma guest line to talk Niners. Hey, Jordan, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. It's been a while.
Has been a while. I like that Sharks hat, man. You got the Sharks representing the Sharks hat. You got the giant sweep in the background there. But of course, we're on the radio, so people driving around going, "What? What can he see Jordan?" Yes, I can see Jordan. So Jordan, let's talk a little Niners. Niners Raiders go in the preseason finale, and obviously the Jed York thing has been a distraction. The Kyle Shanahan accident has been a distraction. I asked Kyle yesterday if he thought it would have either of those would have any real impact on football. And I don't even think that he necessarily even agreed that his accident was a distraction. I don't know how he could, but I think it was an obvious distraction. But I also don't really think that accident impacts them on the field. And I don't really believe that this Jed York situation impacts football at all. Maybe that's naive of me to say that, but give me your perspective.
No, I completely agree. I think these guys are professionals, and at the end of the day, how often are the guys in that locker room seeing Jed York's face on a day-to-day basis, right? Like, I don't think that this is something that, it's, if it had been a player on the team or, somebody that was in that building every day where it was a part of the routine and just part of what these guys are doing day in and day out, I think it would probably be a lot more cause for concern that it's going to disrupt the rhythm they're in. But I don't really feel a ton changes. And I just think that, again, these guys are professionals. There's a lot of veteran guys in that locker room that have been around a long time, that have experienced a lot of things and just kind of know what's expected of them and what they need to do to prepare for the season. And I don't think this is going to hinder that in any way.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. So many people, want to take their shots at Jed, and I get it. We all get it, right? It's an obvious thing. It's an easy thing to poke fun at. Jed's an easy target to poke fun at. And I think everybody understands that. But, the irony is that, the 49ers, with a lot of the structure that Jed himself put in place, I think are kind of ideally suited to weather, the storm of any distraction, really. I mean, you got quality people up front. Al Guido, the CEO, is as solid as they come. Stephanie Rogers, Brendan Schaub, their front office people, and then John Lynch and his football people, RJ Gillen, Brian Hampton. They brought in Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah. I just feel like both on the football side and in the front office side, they're so well stocked and they have such quality, people there. I just don't think that the impact of, I don't think they're going to feel the impact of this on their business or on the football field. I really think they're just going to kind of just keep rolling.
Yeah, I think so too. I think, the fact that they were able to just kind of cruise through the beginning of training camp without Kyle Shanahan was also a pretty good sign that, again, these guys know what's expected of them. They have a good structure in place, as you mentioned. And I think that, the world doesn't stop turning, right? Like, at the end of the day, they know what they're going to have to do. And I think that this would be a much bigger issue if it was maybe the first year of a head coach's tenure, maybe the second year, maybe a new GM head coach pairing, and there was a lot of chemistry still being developed. But this group has been together for so long. They clearly have each other's backs. They clearly, understand the mission at hand. And I think that there's just too long of a track record of them being able to handle their business to doubt that there would be any issues with them continuing that.
One of the stories, though, is it seems like the Niners are in that same spot where every day now they're signing a new defensive end. I just feel like pass rush is their thing this year. It's like if they have they didn't have pass rush last year. If they don't have pass rush this year, they got 6 DBs that are 25 or younger. I mean, it's a very young secondary. And if you look at it on paper, I mean, there's Nick Bosa and Mikael Williams and Keon White and Sam Aquinu, and those are names people remember. But Romello Height was drafted in the 3rd round to provide a big pass rush. I think the only thing he's shown is that he's so light that he's strictly a rush down guy only. And I don't think he's a first and second down player in any way. And then they brought in guys like Quentin Bell, Victor Dimukeje, Viliami Fehoko Jr. from San Jose State, Agbo Okoronkwo. And today they it's been announced that they've worked out free agent defensive end Ja Joyner, who the Raiders signed as an undrafted free agent at the University of Minnesota in the 2025 draft cycle. And then he played with the Dallas Renegades of the UFL. They drafted him. He was released, and he played for the Houston Gamblers. So the guy played well in the UFL, but the Niners are just signing, it seems like every day, a defensive end off the street, just trying to kind of get through the preseason and formulate 5 decent rushers. How do you see that coming together? Do you see that coming together?
I mean, it's never a good sign when you're plucking guys off the street at this time of year, at this stage of camp. On the rare instance that maybe there's a guy that you're signing to a bigger deal that was holding out a little bit, that's not the case here. And I just don't think that you can really expect a lot. You have to temper your expectations, right? And you can't expect a lot of these guys who still aren't signed as teams are getting down to 53. If they weren't already in the mix before this, it's kind of concerning that, you'd be banging on them for anything substantial at this point. I do remember Fehoko quite a bit because he's a local guy too. If I remember correctly, he's from East Palo Alto. I remember covering him at San Jose State. It'd be a really cool story if he was able to stick on the roster and be a contributor, being a local guy, being from here. But it's just one of those things, Larry, where I just feel like they have to make a move that's going to be trading for a proven veteran player elsewhere. I don't think it needs to be a Max Crosby. It's great if you can get a guy like that. That's fantastic. I know that's the name that people have been kind of salivating over the last year or 2 years, whatever it's been. But they just really need a guy that's kind of been there, done that. And they've done a good job in the past of doing that, right? Like when they got Charles Omenihu a few years ago, like that was the perfect piece where they got a guy who had some athletic upside and, maybe whether it was scheme, something didn't go right for him in Houston, but they banked on his potential, brought him in, and he was a big difference maker on a really good team that had Brock Purdy not gotten hurt, probably had a really good chance of winning the Super Bowl that year. And they didn't give up a ton to get him. It was one of those moves at the time that kind of flew under the radar, but as you dug into his tape and you saw not only the skill set he possessed to get after the quarterback, but the versatility to line up at 5 tech, 3 tech. You could kick him inside if you needed to. Like that's the kind of player that they need. And I wish I had a name off the top of my head right now where it makes sense for the other team to give him up for some mid-round capital and it makes sense for the Niners to target them. I don't have a name that I could give you, but they've done a good job of kind of pursuing that mold in years past. And, as for kind of picking guys up off the street at this stage, like Sam O still being on the team and being the contributor has been an incredible story, but he's a kind of a 1 in a million scenario. I don't think that's something you can count on regularly. So I think John Lynch is going to start having to work the phones at some point. Maybe they can coast through the first quarter of the schedule before they start really doing that and they get something done before the trade deadline in October. But I don't think that you can be a serious contender with this group of pass rushers right now.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on that one. And if you look at the D-line, you say, okay, there's a bunch of names here. What's it supposed to look like? Well, it's supposed to be roughly 10 guys, 5 defensive ends, 5 defensive tackles. And yet what the Niners have is they really have 8 defensive tackles and like 3 defensive ends. So I would not be shocked if Alfred Collins or CJ West, 2 defensive tackles that Raheem Morris inherited, wind up getting moved. I think one story that is not being told that much, but it's happening before our eyes, and we're seeing it every day at practice. Bryson Eason, James Thompson Jr., and Grayson Halton, especially when he gets back on the field healthy, they're outplaying CJ West. They're outplaying Alfred Collins. Those rookies, first-year guys are playing better than West and Collins and look like better fits for Raheem Morris's scheme. I would not be surprised if Alfred Collins or CJ West were involved in a deal that brings another defensive end, because at defensive end with Mikell starting most likely on the PUP, what do you got? You got Bosa coming off an injury. You got Keon White coming off of being shot. You got Sam O. And then after that, it's Romello Height and just guys you signed off the street. So I could see, I don't know which team is out there that is thin at defensive tackle and has a surplus at defensive end, but that team ought to call the 49ers because the Niners are the exact inverse of that, and they probably could make a deal.
Absolutely. And the bummer about the lack of edge depth too is that like I think there's a lot to be excited about on the inside. I think Odigizua was an incredible move.
Yeah.
I understand the business side of things. I understand that Dallas gave a ton of money to Quinnen Williams and stuff like that, but that was a really good player that they let walk for a pick that you'd be happy to give up any day of the week to get a player of that caliber, and at the cost he's coming in at, like that's one that we could be looking at in the middle of the season. Like, how the heck did the Niners get away with this one, right? Like, John Lynch completely pulled the heist making this trade. I feel that way right now, but I think once we start getting into the regular season and a more national audience is seeing the player that he is, we're going to be looking back at that like, wow, how did this come to be? And I think Grayson Halton's really explosive. Like that's one thing that it makes such a big difference, Larry, when you have guys on the inside, because they're all beefy in there, right? Like these guys can eat gaps. They can do a lot of the dirty work on the early downs. But when you get a guy that's big, that can hold his own and anchor, but also is explosive off the ball and can disrupt up the middle and forces teams to kind of hesitate putting their entire game plan into stopping Nick Bosa, it makes such a massive difference. So if they're able to get just a slightly above average player to bookend Nick Bosa on the other side, then I think that this group can be really good, and they can be, probably not as good as what we've seen in years past, just because those collections of talent they had on the defensive line were so good for so long that I think it's unrealistic to expect them to reach those heights right now, but they can at least be serviceable in a way that this team can be an actual contender. And I think that it's not a pipe dream or an unrealistic scenario that they could make a move for that. I think this is very much in play if it's something that they decide to do.
Yeah. Let's talk linebacker for a second. On paper, the Niners look like they've got a loaded, deep linebacking room. But then you're like, okay, Dre Greenlaw can't practice every day in camp because it's just they're just trying to coax him through August and get him to the season. He's had injury problems in the past couple of years. How many games can he play? How many games can Fred play coming off an injury? So you got that question. Then you got Luke Gifford, who's got a hamstring injury. He's still not ready to go. You got Wallow, who's now got an injury. So you got two special teams linebackers, and they're both kind of dinged up. You still have Tatum Bethune. Nick Martin suffered what looked to be a hamstring injury in the last game. I don't know about his status. And then they just brought in Deion Jones, and they traded Zamir White to get Deion Jones, who was with Raheem in Atlanta. I guess the question is this: is Deion Jones here because, Gifford and Wallow are suffering some injuries and Martin as well, and he's just, a depth piece that's, you might be able to plug in there? Or is Jaden Duggar, who I thought when I watched the rewatch of the preseason, Duggar flashes, and there's no question he's got talent, but he also takes a lot of false steps, and he just screams busted plays and big plays allowed. Maybe he's not ready. Maybe Larry Worth III, who I really think's exciting, a converted safety from Arkansas. Maybe the determination is these guys aren't ready, and that's why Deion Jones is here. But what do you see at linebacker? Because if everybody's healthy, man, it could be a loaded group, and you're going to cut somebody who's probably going to find a job somewhere else. But if Gifford and Wallow and Martin are hurt, and Duggar and Worth are raw, and Greenlaw and Warner are fragile, suddenly this becomes a real problem spot. How do you see linebacker?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where, like you said, when everybody is healthy on paper, it looks like a great unit, but it can get scary real fast. And I think we saw it last season when Fred Warner went out. I mean, that's also with the caveat that like Fred Warner is one of the best 5 players in the league, in my opinion, at any position when he's at the top of his game. His ability to play at all 3 levels at the level that he does is extremely rare, and it's the reason why he'll be a first ballot Hall of Famer. I have no doubt when that time comes. But we saw how much it changed things for them, and I think that you get stuck between the Giffords and the Wallows of they've been around, they have experience, but they also kind of lack some of that athletic upside that you're getting out of a younger guy like Duggar. But Duggar also, I think he needs a year in an NFL weight room on an NFL diet with their nutritionists, and I think he needs to add a little bit to his frame. His frame is ridiculous. Like watching this guy in pads at camp. I was talking with Rod Brooks at a practice a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about how he can put his arms at his side and touch his knees. Like it's insane the wingspan that this guy has and the physical attributes that just jump out. But like you said, there's a lot of raw talent there that needs to be harnessed, but can you really bank on that in a big spot on a third down when you need a stop and the game's on the line? I don't think it's fair to expect the day 3 rookie draft pick to be the guy that can do that for you. So, Deion Jones, once upon a time, was racking up triple digit tackles every season in Atlanta. He's a guy that's been there, done that, obviously has the ties to Raheem, like you said. So I think they did make the move just kind of needing a body for camp, but I think they made that move knowing that Zamir White wasn't in the plans, and maybe there's a path where they bring Deion Jones in. And they're kind of like, hey, it'd be nice to have a guy that's been there, done that, is familiar with Raheem Morris, and is somebody that you can count on. I think that his willingness, he went up and down quite a bit on the Bucs practice squad. So I think having a guy like that that's a veteran, that's willing to maybe be on a practice squad and not be on that roster for the full 17-game season, just be willing to take that role and be called upon when needed, that could turn out to be really valuable. So I think Deion Jones is more than just a camp body. I'm not saying that they made the move with that being the intention, but I think they made that move knowing that he could absolutely factor into their plans, depending on how the season progresses.
Yeah, I think it's a great trade. I mean, they're trading a guy who they for sure were going to cut, who's got talent, to a Saints team that's lost 3 running backs to injuries, including Kamara, and so it's a good win for them. But then at the Niners, I think you're right. I think Deion Jones is more than just a camp body. I think he's a guy that's probably likely to make the roster and play games. I mean, he played all 17 games last year. Once upon a time, the guy had 4.38 speed. And you kind of said it. I mean, he's a one-time Pro Bowler, but he's also 5 years in his NFL career where he totaled over 100 tackles. So it's funny. I asked Fred Warner about him yesterday, and Fred's like, man, when I came into the league, he was a guy that I studied. So now they're on the same team, and it'll be interesting to see. I definitely think we're going to see a couple more of guys who have played for Raheem that Raheem wants, Raheem's comfortable with, because there's a little transition here between, hey, Raheem is part of a group effort on free agency and the draft, but now it's time to play ball, and Raheem's feet are going to be held to the fire. So my guess is that he's going to go with some of his own guys. Couple more before we let you go. How do you see the secondary? I mean, there's like a bunch of young guys, like 5 or 6 guys that are 25, 26 or younger. Obviously, the pass rush helps, but I saw Dante Whitner was taking Renardo Green and Jack Jones to task, saying that he doesn't think Jones is consistent. He'll make big plays, but he'll make big mistakes. And I think Raheem even said that when we talked about Jones on the podium earlier this offseason or this camp. How do you see the defensive backfield? Is it a concern? Is it a strength? I definitely think Raheem is making an impact back there.
Yeah, I think that the cornerback group doesn't really concern me as much. And I think if Renardo Green coming out of Florida State, like you saw a lot of the potential and the reason why the Niners took him in the second round. And I still think that there's a player there. I still believe he can be a quality, number 2 corner in the league. I think Jamador Lenore is as a guy that when he flips that switch and he turns it on, he's somebody you can depend on. And I really think Upton Stout's primed for a breakout year. I think he's a guy that a lot of people probably have circled to be somebody to watch as taking that big leap going into the year. So the cornerback group, I feel good about. I really like Price Hawk too. I think that he's a great project. I think he's another one of those guys where his physical just tools stand out. His build stands out. He's very long. He's very athletic. And I think that he's somebody that they could mold into a quality player and probably not have to depend on too much this year if everybody's healthy, but, somebody that develops into a good player for them. The real cause for concern to me is the safety group. And I think that's been a thing for a couple of years now, honestly. I think when the Niners were year in and year out viewed as this contender, justifiably so, they had Jimmy Ward and they had Jaquiski Tartt, and both Jimmy Ward and Jaquiski Tartt were extremely underrated in their own rights. And I think that they've had a hard time replacing that level of just dependability on the back end back there, where it's not only making plays, but not giving up big plays. And so the 49ers, to me, on the back end, they don't really have a guy in that safety room that you feel is going to change the game, but you also have a ton of guys where you're kind of concerned that they will change the game in a negative way by giving up these big plays over the top. And so, when you look at this group on paper, I think Mustafa flashed a ton when he was playing downhill and getting in the box and doing things in the run game, but there's more to playing the position than just that, right? And I think that it's still early, so he has plenty of time to prove himself, but I don't think that you've seen enough to feel super confident that he's going to be that guy. Jair Brown, we've seen for years. Like, I think at this point, he kind of is what he is. I think he's a serviceable NFL player, but I don't think that he's somebody that you should feel is going to take this huge leap now, years into his career. Like, I just think it kind of is what it is. So at a certain point, I do wonder if they start to maybe try somebody else out. I really liked Ashton Davis when he was at Cal. I thought he was a great player. Saw a ton of him when he was playing here. I thought he looked good when he came into the league and he was on the Jets. Like, I think that they're going to have to change something up if they get into the season and it looks how it did last year, because I know there was a ton of injuries. I know there's a ton of adversity last year, but to me, the most glaring weakness from week 1 to week 17 was the safety group. And I think that that was an area I expected them to address a little bit more this offseason. So they probably, I'd imagine, feel much more confident than I do about it. I just was a little bit surprised that it seems like they're kind of running it back with the same group, minus taking flyers on a guy like Ashton Davis and kind of, seeing what they have with that. But it doesn't inspire a ton of confidence to me, Larry.
All right, we're going to continue our conversation. Jordan Elliott hanging out on a Wednesday night. It's Niners Nightly. We'll continue more with our conversation next on the Sports Leader.
Now, from the O'Donnell Financial Group Sports Desk. Learn more at odfigroup.com. O'Donnell Financial Group, because planning is a process, not a product.
Holy crap. The Giants had a 9-3 lead in the top of the ninth, on their way to their first season sweep, and just like that, it's gone. Giants lose 10-9. It's the biggest collapse in the ninth inning for the Giants since 1901. Giants fans, this season's been brutal enough, but that game is a huge kick to the beans. Call in now, 415-808-5627. We're here for you.
faithful. Niners Nightly with Larry Krueger now continue on your proud home of 49ers football. KNBR, the sports leader.
Welcome back. Niners Nightly on a Wednesday. Jordan Elliott with us on the UMA guest line from NBC Sports Bay Area. And Jordan, last year the Niners really struggled to run the ball. They had a bunch of games where they really struggled. Why did they have such struggles a year ago?
I think it definitely can. I think anytime that teams are going to have to respect what you can do over the top with a guy like Mike Evans, if Stribling continues to play the way he plays and just the 4.3 speed that he possesses, you do have to be a little bit more reluctant to get caught on your back foot in a way I don't think that defenses have had to while playing the 49ers the last couple of years. I think one of the big things that really hurt them was just at the tight end spot too. I think Jake Tonjes is a great, reliable depth guy for them. I wouldn't say he's an outstanding blocker. Kittle missed 5 games. And so they kind of brought Luke Farrell in to be that guy. And for what they gave him in free agency and for what he was brought here to do, I think that he's somebody that was a bit underwhelming on that front. And I think that they probably counted on getting more out of him. I remember going through a few cut-ups last year where it just kind of was like, man, like, this guy was kind of brought in to be that blocking tight end, that kind of Charlie Warner role that he held for a few years. And I just don't think that it panned out the way they had hoped. So hopefully he's primed for a bounce back year because it would make a big difference. And I just think that there was a lack of cohesion up front. There was, a couple guys that were getting hurt on that line. There was new faces coming in and they didn't really have a chance to develop a ton of chemistry. I think that Dominic Pooney probably would never use this excuse or never rely on this, but I think he got hurt in that preseason game against the Raiders and just was never right all season because he looked like a totally different player than what we saw his rookie season. And so I think that leg injury definitely had something to do with it. So at this point, yeah, I think adding some guys outside that can threaten the defense a little bit more and then hopefully, getting some more cohesion on that offensive line, some consistency. I would say it's concerning that they don't really know who the left guard is going to be yet, but it's better than not knowing who your left tackle is, right? Like it's something that you can plug and play theoretically if you're able to get the other 4 spots locked in and shored up. So, I know that there's a big talking point around like Christian McCaffrey's explosiveness being gone and he lost a step. The guy had 415 touches last year. Like I think that he's still a really good dynamic player. There's just a lot of moving parts around him that maybe didn't have the same recipe to set him up for success that we've seen in years past. So I think if they're able to get just a little bit more consistency and keep some of the same guys in these spots and keep guys healthy, that it'll sort itself out naturally, if that makes sense.
Who's the left guard? You go with Carver Willis, you go with Connor Colby, Robert Jones. They're going to go outside and try to bring somebody else in the 11th hour. Who would you go with as your left guard?
Honestly, I'd probably go Robert Jones, Larry. I mean, I think that they wanted it to be Colby. I think they really, really wanted it to be him. And I think the fact that it's not clearly him at this point is cause for concern because I think that they did everything possible to set it up where it was going to be a competition, but it was like, this is the guy we want to win it. He's younger, more cost controlled. This is the guy we want to have be in that spot. And it doesn't seem like there's been a ton of confidence inspired that he's ready to be handed that role and given the keys to be the left guard. I know Robert Jones probably doesn't, excite a ton of people, but he's been there, he's done that. And I think at a certain point, like I'd rather bank on a proven commodity that has a lower upside, but a higher floor than throw out some younger guys where maybe you're getting some flashes here and there, but they end up being a liability because they're dealing with the growing pains that the majority of this offense has already gone through a decade ago because of the average age of that offense that they're rolling out there. So I think that's one of the hard parts when you do have a team that is this full of veterans and has this many guys that are in this win now, ready to compete window. You aren't allowed to afford the grace that younger players are going to need to grow. And I think it's really hard to thrust guys like a Connor Colby or Carver Willis into that role and expect them not to crumble under the weight of the pressure that they're going to feel from being in that spot.
If the Niners go 6 receivers, Evans, Debo, Stribling, Demarcus Robinson, Jordan Watkins, let's say those are the 5. Who's your 6th between Christian Kirk, Jacob Cowing, Will Pauling, and then the special teams crew, Malik Turner, Kadero Hodge, Trenton Irwin? Who do you want as that sixth receiver?
That's really hard, Larry, because I think with Cowing, you can see so much potential and you can see so much explosiveness, and you don't want to get into a situation where it's like, all right, like we're gonna bank on the young guy and he's gonna be healthy this year, and then he ends up getting hurt again, and then you're just kind of stuck in this repetitive pattern year after year. Some guys, unfortunately, their bodies just don't hold up in this league, and it's unclear if Cowing is one of those guys yet, but we've seen this happen so many times over and over again. And then with Kirk, we haven't really been able to see him in this offense because he's been dealing with his own stuff. And so you get kind of torn between having a guy that's been there and done that. They've seen plenty of Kirk. They saw him when he was in Arizona in the division. He's been around a long time. He's had big playoff performances. You can rely on him. If you have, Evans missing a couple games, if you have, if Stribling's struggling or if Debo's missing a couple games, like he's a guy that you could theoretically slot into a role where you're going to need him to do more than just be a special teamer or run 5 or 10 routes a game. Like he can be a guy that can go out there and get 10 targets in a game and make a difference. We've seen it. So I would probably go Cowing and do my best to pitch Kirk on being a guy that is a regular practice squad call up. I think that there is a ton of value in having a guy that's a veteran, that's been there, that's done that, that's willing to take on that kind of role. I think that Chris Conley was a super underrated 49er for a couple seasons when he was here because he was a guy that you could count on in big moments. And we saw in the Super Bowl, he made a couple big catches and a couple big plays in the Super Bowl on top of what he was doing on special teams. So I would go Cowing and I would roll the dice a little bit there just because I do think there is potential for a special player there, but I would not feel great about it given the injury history, to be completely truthful.
I always love talking football with Jordan Elliott. He's one of the very, very best, and we appreciate him for stopping by. Check him out. NBC Sports Bay Area does a great job over there for NBCSportsBayArea.com. All right, that's going to do it for us tonight. We went a little bit over. The great Ted Ramey, I owe him 6 minutes, or maybe he owes me. I don't know. But somebody owes somebody 6 minutes of radio because we just bled into Ted's time. He's up next. He's got a great show for you. Make sure you keep him company. Give him a call. 808-KMBR is the number. Thanks to Raph. Thanks to Jordan. No Niners Nightly tomorrow because tomorrow is game day. So you can hear me on the pregame show with Adam and JD on the postgame as well. And should be a big Niner game day. They'll try to get in and get out, show very little, hopefully get nobody hurt, run the ball a lot, make their evaluations, pick their final 3, and get ready to jump on that bird next Wednesday to Melbourne, to take on the Los Angeles Rams September 10th in week 1, a game that will be on Netflix. And, of course, we'll have it for you right here on The Sports Leader. All right, that's going to do it for us. Thanks to Raph. Thanks to all of you. Enjoy Ted. We'll see you tomorrow on The Sports Leader.
It's time for you to sound off, for you to speak your mind. This show is for the faithful.
Touchdown!
Dub Nation's
Bang! Steph Curry again!
and the seam heads that bleed orange and black. This is Sports Phone KNBR. Sponsored by Industrial Metal Supply on the Sports Leader. Check the live stream on YouTube at KNBR 1045.
What's up, everyone? The San Francisco Giants are good at losing. I think that's my only takeaway that I have at this point of the season, of this point of the campaign. I don't know what else I'm supposed to take away from that. I don't know what I'm supposed to see out of today's game and think to myself, yeah, they gave up 7 runs in the 9th inning at home to lose by a final of 10-9. I don't even know how that's possible. And it's not like the game was rife with errors either as part of that comeback. Yes, there was one, but by that point it was already 9-8. Like, you'd already had the big crush from Suarez that made it a 9-8 game, and then you just decided that you were going to have a little bit of a throwing error in there. I mean, this is the thing. If you have this many blown saves or leads or just inability to finish games over the entirety of the year, you just have to say that they're good at losing. Like, I'm not even trying to be overly tongue-in-cheek or cute or anything, but like, I can't deny it. Like, they know how to do this. There's like a change that happens with the Giants to where they start tightening up and they feel that they're just going to blow it. And I know that we saw it on Saturday, and this is like a time when they're going for, a sweep where they're looking like they're maybe going to be able to have, their first, good moments in a long while, and they're ultimately just absolutely falling apart when all is said and done. It's inexplicable, except for the fact that we've seen it so many other times this year. So many other times this year we have seen the Giants blow these leads. And I know that the roster is different now. I know that it's not the same team that we're talking about earlier in the year. I know that it's changes. It's post-deadline. You've waved the white flag on the season. You've given up, but it's still shocking when you give up 7 runs in the 9th to lose at home. That is, again, relatively inexplicable were it not for everything that I had seen from the Giants this year. So if you want to get in on that and just absolutely be ticked off, by all means, 808 KNBR. I'm not going to tell you not to get in on that. I see you there in the chat. I saw somebody call the 9th inning galactic. Someone says my garage cannot be too hot tonight if I've got a sweatshirt on. This is just a single ply thin t-shirt. I just get these shirts that are athletic with the hoods built in. It's kind of like my take on the Bill Belichick look. Because then if I'm out, I work outside often, but I don't always want to wear my sun hat. So I put the little hood up, and all of a sudden I got extra protection on my dome. So that's why I'm doing this. It's not a hoodie. I'm not wearing a sweatshirt in my garage. We can do a quick temperature check in the garage. What's it say? 89 degrees. It's been hotter in here. It's not too bad in here tonight, actually. I've got a good situation going on with the fan. I'm feeling pretty good. I'm fired up over the Giants, just finding new ways to just, I'm having to catch myself from dropping maybe some short letterage terms about the Giants tonight. I can't, guys. Like, just get us through the end of the season. And I thought that the 49ers were going to come in and be a nice distraction, a nice change of pace. But the 49ers have just decided that the entirety of their offseason is just going to be next level. Whether it was the Shanahan accident, whether it was going to be the substation just taking center stage, immediately from day one, I was like, we're over these injuries. We're going to get healthy. And just boom, substation. You get a substation. You get a substation. You get a substation. Just everywhere. And then we go from there to Jed York and his current situation. And my overall reaction to this story is just, ew. And I'm trying to be kind about this because there is an inherent sadness here that I'm trying not to ignore, because I think you have Jed York, who is coming out of a divorce. And listen, people get lonely. I have a wife. I don't get lonely to that same extent. And I understand that there is a need for human contact and affection and all those things. But when it ends up in the situation which you did, where you have a guy who is of the billionaire class, even if he himself is not a billionaire, he operates a team that is worth several $billion. If you're ending up in a trailer park, it has the feel like you're preying upon society's needy. $140. For some of us, that's not even a California tank of gas. Ew. Like, come on, man. Like, again, we can have a longer conversation if you would all like about sex work and places where it's legalized and whether or not that leads to more trafficking or less trafficking. But the fact of the matter is there are better outlets for a guy who has that much money. There are people who are not on the lower end of society, maybe engaged in that work for survival to the same extent that there are people who work amongst the heavy millionaire, billionaire class. I'm not going to get deep into this, but again, whatever inherent sadness I do feel for Jed York, which I do, I am a human. My heart goes out to him. The footage that came out today from the body cam of the traffic stop and stop, or with the sting when they decided to arrest him when he pulled in, like, there's a sadness to it. I hate to see people go through these things, but at the same time, it's like, buddy, there are better ways. There are different ways to go about this. And can we just get some football? I would just like some normal football. I don't want car accidents, obviously, because that's dangerous, but it's just out of the norm. I don't want substations and injuries. I don't want the owner getting arrested. I just want some football. I just want 49ers football. I want to know whether or not George Kittle is going to play in week number 1, or when he comes back, does he look like the same George Kittle we had before? I want to see if Evans can stay healthy. I want to see what the 49ers pass rush looks like. I want to see what their new overall defense looks like. I want to see what Brock Purdy looks like. I want to see if Christian McCaffrey can hold up. I have so many questions. Is Debo still Debo in the sense that he can do what he previously did for the 49ers? These are all pertinent questions I have about the 49ers. And instead, it's car accidents, substations, and the owner getting arrested. And I can't, how is this the norm for the Bay Area? How do we always have these other stories? Like, there's a lot of callers over there, like, just sick to sports, man. We don't want to hear your takes on politics. We don't want to hear your take on I'd love to. If we could just talk to sports, I would love that. But I'm not the one doing this stuff, guys. I'm not the one making decisions in these instances. I'm not the one who's getting injured on a practice field next to a gigantic substation. I'm not getting in car accidents while my Tesla is on autopilot. Because you know what? I drive an 05 Camry that has a not even a touch screen. It has an analog radio where I got to press them buttons to get the radio up. Gets like 33 miles to the gallon. When I'm not driving that, I drive an 03 Chevy Silverado Z71, baby. Because I like spending a lot of money on gasoline. Thank you, Raf. Yeah, I love it. Love spending a lot of money on gasoline. But again, I'm not talking Teslas. I drive around in my cars that work. I don't have no autopilot. I have cruise control. I don't think I ever really try them, but they're there. I got 4-wheel off-road package on my truck. It's a Pavement Princess, so I don't get to use it much. My word. Everything.
I mean, Ted, we're lucky that the Niners aren't on Hard Knocks this year.
Oh my God. Can you imagine? Can you absolutely imagine? Like, we would be just next level, the uproar Hard Knocks. Like, I feel like I have so many jokes that I could go with there, but I just wish we could get normal football news. I just wish we could get a normal baseball. Like, you think about the comparison of the way the Giants season started, where they were talking about just Tony Vitello coming out and making things weird right off the bat about the way his hiring was, reported. That just made things weird. And then they just right off the bat were a bad team. And then they had the Pride Night disaster. It's all craziness. I want some normal football. I want some normal baseball. The Quakes, my Quakes start off with the best season. 9 out of their first 10 games, they got wins. And now they've only won 1 in their last 11. At least that's just been defined by mostly normal play on the field. And the Sharks, I feel like, are normal normal team right now. And the off the field stuff or off the ice stuff is Macklin Celebrini signing big contracts. So, like, that's relatively normal. But we all know that the NFL is king. And I can't wait for us to get to the start of the season. And we're getting close. We're just like a little over, 2 weeks away, or what is it? We got till the 10th of September. So, yeah, we got like a week and a half. We'll get there. But, man, we need to get there fast. We need to get there fast. And we need to get there in one piece as the 49ers. The consistent injuries to Evans, Deebo Samuel with his injury history, Trent with his history, Brock with his history. We got CMC already coming back and saying, this was the plan all along. Like, let me tell you something about plans, everyone. And I don't mean to say this is that I work for the Sharks and we do everything right. Like, no, I can't say that. We still don't have a cup. I'm not going to deny that. But when the Sharks went into their season 2 years ago with very high-profile rookies, Macklin Celebrini and Will Smith, they got out ahead of it and said, this is our plan. These guys aren't always going to play every night. These guys are going to sometimes be out of the lineup. We're not going to play them on back-to-backs. And they had a plan. They got out in front of it. Why can't other teams get out in front of it? That's all that I ask. For them to come back and say this was the plan all along, it's like, why didn't you say that ahead of time then? If that's the plan, come out and say it. Come out and tell us what the plan is. Everybody loves a good plan. It's one of the great things my dad has taught me over the course of my life. A bad plan is better than no plan at all. Jonathan Kuminga had a plan. He bet on himself. Didn't work out with as much money, but he had a plan. He stuck to it. The Warriors had a plan. They had 2 timelines, baby. They had a plan. Didn't work out, but they say they had a plan. Did they have a plan? Not so sure about that. I guess you don't plan on your star, big man down low. If we want to, I don't know what we're classifying Draymond as a 4 or a 5 these days in terms of modern basketball, but I'm sure they didn't plan for him to punch Jordan Poole in the face, nor did they plan for Wiseman to be I don't want to be too harsh, not a good pick, nor did they plan for Kuminga to show all the world right off the bat, but then never really develop into a better player. They had a plan for those guys to all work out really, really well. The plan didn't work out when all is said and done. I say they had the essence of a plan. Guys, we're getting there. We're getting there. We're closer to the start of the season. And I just want to watch some football. I just want to watch the 49ers come out there in week 1. I'd like to see them beat the Rams. Everybody's hyping up the Rams. I'm at the point in my life where everything, all hype, whether it's draft picks, whether it's preseason darlings, whether it's big offseason moves, I'm just like, show me. Show me. Like, you can give me all the hype in the world. We can all be excited. Like, the Rams, they're all in. They're going. Show me. Show me if they're that good. 49ers are a pretty good test. And show me that the 49ers, as they are constructed right now, were able to take on a team that's going all in on this year. After they were manhandled late in the year by the Seahawks in particular, that showed every shortcoming the 49ers had. Show me how good the 49ers are. Show me how good the Rams are. Show me what Brock Purdy is now. Show me what Deebo is. Show me what Deebo can be. Show me. Stop telling me. Just show me. Just get there. Just let us get to the start line for Pete's sake so we can watch football and get from there. I am excited. Don't get me wrong, guys. It just feels like every day it's something new other than the actual football. And then we're going to get preseason tomorrow night against Vegas. I don't know. By the way, I've been trying hard to call them Vegas. We're going to see preseason football. I don't know what we're going to be able to derive from it. I don't know what we're going to be able to get out of that game because the preseason is meaningless, even more so. The preseason has been meaningless for a long, long time. It's leveled up to new levels of meaningless in more recent years. But we're going to get to see some things tomorrow night, and I'm curious to get reactions. Like, we've had some nice little stories out of the 49ers preseason up to this point. We've had some look at some young players like Stribling. We've thought, okay, we have an idea that he can play in the NFL. We've had an idea that the 49ers are going to be, okay in certain areas. But I just want to see the ultimate play on the field. And some people in the chat, by the way, they're saying, that he's against Krug's very... Listen, I love the way Krug breaks it down. I love listening to him break down what we're going to see, what we're getting into the games, what we're getting at in terms of matchups and stuff. I respect Krug, and I understand his viewpoint totally. I listen to him on Niners Nightly. I watch his YouTube channel. I'm not coming at Krug in any way, shape, or form. I'm just saying for me, for where I'm at right now, I just want to see football. I just want to see everything that the 49ers are going to be come the start of the regular season. Because football is defined by big players. It is defined by big plays. It is defined by the regular season. It's great to get through the preseason and cut down your roster and figure out who's going to be on the team. But that's the point that I want to be at. Like, this is the hurry up and wait part of the preseason and the training camp where we're like, okay, all right, we have a pretty good idea of where we're going. Let's just get to that real destination. It's what happens when you play, the NHL is cutting down their preseason games and adding on to the regular season, going from 82 to 84 games, only 4 preseason games. Usually it was like after you got 2 or 3 preseason games, and it's like, okay, I'm ready for the regular season. Spring training is cute at first, then you're like, okay, I'm ready for the start of the regular season. NBA preseason, I don't know. Find me the last person who paid deep attention to the NBA preseason that isn't actively in the NBA media season. I'll buy you a beer. But yeah, I want 49ers football. I want to see what they're going to turn into. I want to see what this team is going to bring us. And I want to be able to turn the page on the Giants season, which the 49ers season will essentially take us through. Because if it's ugly now, folks, with the Giants, it's only going to get uglier. Hate to break it to you. So we're going to take a break because I've not seen the phone lines light up because I think people have been equally disgusted. I'll give a quick refresh to see if there's any of you calling in. It does not appear to be the case. So we're going to be joined by Kylan Mills of NBC Sports Bay Area. She's on Giants pre and post. She's on 49ers coverage as well. So we're going to talk Giants and we're going to talk 49ers. That's coming up here on Sports Phone. We're also going to talk deep on 49ers and the whole Jed York situation. Matt Barrows, he's going to come on. Then we're going to talk about college football and the insane path that they're down right now because they've got the Big 12 being the latest to ban pros on top of the Big 10 and the SEC. And it's just all sorts of craziness of where college football as a whole is headed. And why are we even calling it college football at this point? What does this have to do with the colleges other than the laundry? So yeah, a lot to get into tonight. We're going to have some fun. I see you in the chat. Always enjoy you weighing in on all of this. But on the other side, we're going to talk with Kylan Mills, NBC Sports Bay Area, Giants and Niner Talk, right here. Sports Phone, KMBR.
Giants fans, this is your hub to have your voice heard. Sports Phone KNBR. Streaming live on YouTube at KNBR 1045.
I lied. Ted, you rotten liar. How could you do that to us? It's because I don't know how to operate the phone screen. And it turns out there are callers. And I always want to talk to you lovely people. Let's go to Dino in Pacheco. I assume it's Dino and not Dino, but Dino is what I assume it is. He wants to talk York. Dino the Dino, what's going on?
Hey, Ted. Good talking to you, man. And good show. You always have a good show whenever I hear you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I want to talk about something you said earlier, and I know it's not personal or nothing like that because you ain't the only one. It's a big. It's a thing going around the whole nation about the Jed York situation. You know, even when I was younger, you know, I would have been all over it too and made fun of it and everything. But it's a sad situation. I mean, it's sad. I mean, it's super sad for him, for his life, for his family, whatever, for his kids. It's super sad. I mean, but you said one thing that like I said, that's been going around way before. You know, when all this happened, and it's going around all the time. Just because people have money and bigger and more stuff and bigger and more paper in their wallets, doesn't mean they're any better than anybody else. And so when you said something about he could have done better than going to a mobile home park, well, those people in a mobile home, do you think God loves rich people? That people that have more money than people that live in a mobile home?
No, but yeah. But my point was
making fun because he went to a mobile home park and basically calling them people lowlifes and things like that. And everybody's the same. God loves everybody the same.
Dino, that's not my point. I'm just saying it feels like a very rich person preying upon people who might be in a more needy situation because if you're living in a mobile home park, you're probably not as well off. That's why I'm saying my understanding from just people I've talked to, this is not my area of expertise, but there are, for lack of a better term, high-level escorts who are availed to the richer class out there to where it would be more of an appropriate transaction of funds as opposed to somebody in that financial class, what feels like to me kind of preying upon different people. It has nothing to do with them being better or anything than that. It feels like a rich person trying to go after somebody who might not be in as good a place in their life. And that's my umbrage with it. And, again, there's greater conversations about, sex work, whether or not it should be legalized, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm not looking down on these people. I'm just saying that for somebody of the financial means of him to be going there, it has more of that ick factor to me. But no, I'm not looking down on those people in any capacity. I didn't want it to come across like that. I was more just of me looking at Jed as like, buddy, there's different avenues for you in this world. And that's why it feels like an unfair transaction. It feels like there are power dynamics at work that make me even more uncomfortable. But thank you, Dino. I appreciate the call. Let's go to Bruce in San Jose. Let's go 180 degrees. But not too far down the road from Levi's Stadium to SAP Center, where I was yesterday. A lot of work going on there. He wants to talk Sharks goalies. Bruce, what's going on?
Yeah, hey, Ted. Always great to hear you hosting the show. Thanks for taking the call, everyone over there. I'm 44 years old, just as like a frame of reference. I'm a Sharks fan, not a total diehard. But, I know. I figured we were right around the same age. But I remember, Sharks had my first, good memory. I know they had Urbe, but I didn't follow them. But, they had Kelly Rudy, Mike Vernon. They even had Eddie Belfour for a while. And then I think just my memory of our last really good goalie was Nabokov. But then I think we had Hedberg. We traded. I guess my question is, I had to look it up because I knew last year we drafted like a goalie, highest ever.
Yeah, Ravensburger,
yeah. I mean, is he projected to be a true NHL goalie? Because I know they drafted a new. Anyways, I know I like Askarov. What's the goalie situation? How do you feel about it overall?
So right now, Ravensburger is quickly coming up. He is projected to be an NHL guy. He was the highest taken goalie in that draft a year, not the 2026 draft in June, but the year before. And he is very high on a lot of guys. I just did a conversation with Corey Pronman on the Sharks Audio Network. If you want to check it out, it's also on my YouTube, where we talked about his new piece out on The Athletic, where he gets into the Sharks NHL pipeline. And one of his highest rated Sharks prospects is Ravensburgen. And Ravensburgen, if you look at other guys' lists that have come out recently talking about different prospects, he is high up on the list. So that's the guy you're thinking of. Where the Sharks are right now, when they traded Tomas Hertl to Vegas, they turned those assets and traded them to Nashville, and that's how they got Yaroslav Askarov, who has a very, very high level of play. You saw him last year. He had a great month of November. He had a near 950 save percentage. The only guy who's really been close to that has been Nabokov when he was at his peak. So Nabokov was a great goalie, obviously. Askarov has the ability to be one of those franchise goalies that you rely on for years. And then the rest of the year, Askarov wasn't that good. And I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that it was his first full year in the NHL, A, and B, the Sharks' defense was not good last year. I think people put too much blame on goalies. There were breakdowns left and right. The Sharks did a terrible job of protecting the crease. They would get thrown around in there. They would get pulled around to where they were screening their own goalie, whether it was Askarov or Nedeljkovic. The Sharks simply were not good enough in terms of their blue liners defense, in terms of their team defense, and it made the goalies look worse. But when you compound that with a guy in Yaroslav Askarov, who is only in his first full year in the NHL, there were times where it looked bad, and that's why his save percentage for the season dipped under 900. But I think going forward with another year of experience under his belt, I think he is going to be better. Now, behind him is Alex Nedeljkovic. Alex Nedeljkovic, a victim of the Sharks defense last year at times. He's got a higher upside than I think we saw. He doesn't have as high of a ceiling as Askarov, but I don't think that he's going to have some of the lows that he had this last year. He's got a very, very good mind. He sees the game like a coach, and actually a lot of the time that I would see him talking to the defense on the bench on his nights off, or even breaks and nights where he was in net, he was talking to those guys like a coach. He's got a very good mind, so I like him. The third string would be Comrie, I believe. He's been up and down in the NHL. He's played, I think, like 25 games with the Jets last year. Let me see if I can get it up. Yeah, he had 25 with Winnipeg last year. He had an 890 save percentage. The year before that, he was with the Jets. He had a 914 save percentage. So he's a good backup. He can give you, 20, 30 starts if need be. I would expect it to, he's going to be kind of the third string going into it. But I do like our goalies right now. But I also think just the year's experience of team defense will make us that much better. But I appreciate the call. Thank you very much, Bruce. Let's get to Coach Lee in Sacramento. He wants to talk some Blues man Dusty and the Giants.
Hey, this is Lee
Coach?
Grishon, former varsity baseball coach at Mariluma High School. Watched Dusty Baker come over in 1967 he came to Sacramento from Riverside because his father was military employee, and his father got hired at Mather Air Force Base. So consequently, Dusty had to move to Carmichael and then go to Del Campo High School his senior year. Tremendous athlete. The problem was he was 6'4", about 160. He was skin and bone, and he was fast as lightning, but he had no muscle on his body. And then the book he put out just recently called Crossover is worthy of reading any family, any coach, any father, any baseball, football lover, because it was all about discipline. Without discipline, Dusty Baker never would have got to the level that he was. Ted Williams took him under his wing when he was at Atlanta, and Dusty Baker's mother was a real scholar, very intellectual type of person, and his father was a disciplinarian. So if you want a good book to read Crossover, Dusty Baker's life. Now let's get into the Giants. If Buster Posey was playing for or managing any other team and had to do with the overall success of the Giants, he'd be fired. He'd been fired 60 days ago. The only reason he's still with the Giants is because he's a Hall of Fame catcher and he's a part owner, and they keep hanging on. They don't have anybody that can make a decision in the Giants organization. They keep fussing around. There's no plan, like you were talking about earlier. There is no discipline. There is no repercussion if you don't do well. The relieving core and every team in baseball, they can't wait to play the Giants in the 7th, 8th, and 9th innings because the Giants can't close out any game. And the reason is that Tony can't Tony cannot pull anybody out of the game. He sits there and you watch him on TV. He doesn't know what the hell he's doing. He's in depression or something. I don't know.
He's got bad body language on the rail, Coach, and I don't
bad.
know what and it needs to improve. And I think that he made some mistakes early on when he said to think of me as your teammate. A manager needs to not just operate by fear, but also those players need to be like, hey, I need to show up or this guy's going to bench my ass. They need to know, like Bruce Bochy. Bruce Bochy was very caring to his teammates, like the way he talked to his guys. They knew that he cared about them, but they also knew that he wasn't going to take any BS. He wasn't going to take anything from them.
Right.
He would bench them if they were going to get it. Like he knew how to ride that line. I don't think Tony Vitello knows how to do that yet. But Coach Lee, we got to get out. I appreciate the call. And the book is not Crossover. It's Crossroads. That's the name of his book, not Crossover. I was like, no, it doesn't sound right. Because I think my dad has a copy of it on his bookshelf, or I saw it somewhere recently, but it's Crossroads is the name of Dusty Baker's memoir. But Coach Lee, thanks for the call. Now we're going to take a break. On the other side now, we are going to hear from Colin Mills. We'll talk some baseball, Giants, 49ers, lot to get into. That's coming up next here on Sports Phone KMBR.
Giants fans, this is your hub to have your voice heard. Sports Phone KNBR. Streaming live on YouTube at KNBR 1045.
All right, we're now joined here on Sports Phone KNBR by my good friend Kylan Mills of NBC Sports Bay Area. Kylan, what's going on? How are you doing?
Oh, you know, Ted, the Giants just have like the worst blown lead in the ninth inning that we've seen in the history of the franchise. They've just lost, but hey, football season's around the corner, so at least there's that. I can already smell the pumpkin spice lattes in the air. It's unfortunate the leaves don't fall here in the Bay Area, but needless to say, I'm looking forward to a new season, even though it's weird as someone who's from the Midwest and is used to having an actual fall being here for fall. Because it's like the opposite. It doesn't get colder here and there's no leaves falling. But it is exciting that football season's around the corner.
If you come out to me in the 925 in Clayton, you can see some leaves change. But I understand in San Francisco, it's, yeah. And then like fall doesn't really come until like Halloween for like a week. So, yeah,
Yes,
I understand.
exactly.
As a Midwesterner, you own us in terms of fall and the leaves changing. It's not quite the same here. That's the funniest part is people are like, yeah, the best weather of the year for Giants baseball is September and October. And you're like fall as opposed to the summer in California. That makes a lot of sense.
Makes perfect sense, doesn't it? Yeah, I live in the peninsula, so that's why I say that. There's like no signs of fall when you look outside in September or October. But it is great. I mean, it gets a little bit warmer. You get kind of that late heat wave, so it's a good time of year. It just outside of football season, you wouldn't know it's fall.
No, you would not. And well, that's part of why it's so expensive. But we'll save that conversation for another time. Let's talk about the Giants, who unbelievably blow a huge lead and lose yet again. This comes on the heels of Saturday's blown save and a season's worth of blown saves and blown leads, and inability to get their first 3-game sweep most recently. I mean, they're good at losing. And I'm not saying that to be inflammatory, but I genuinely say that as a skill it seems they've developed.
It's almost unbelievable, Ted. Like, and the thing is, it's so fascinating experiencing it in studio. Like, I was talking to one of our bosses and he's like, hey, look, we're texting. He's like, the Giants are about to get the first sweep of the season. I said, sir, there are 3 outs remaining. Not so fast. It's come to the point where I almost feel like the team can feel it, the fans can feel it, where one thing goes wrong in like an 8th or 9th inning, like a batter gets walked, something weird happens, there's a wild pitch, someone gets on base, and you just go, oh no. And that's actually what I think is a part of the issue with this team, right? Is because you have a bullpen with players who are completely inexperienced, now even more so than ever since the trade deadline. Like, we've got essentially a AAA team out there. And I just think that there is a lack of confidence and belief that when like one thing goes wrong, very quickly can snowball in those late innings, because these are guys who are, and I feel like even sometimes we watch and it looks like the team is kind of tense and they're like, uh-oh, one thing happens, and you can almost see it on the faces. You can see it, whoever's pitching. And sometimes the way that they attack the next batter, you're like, ooh, like now they're not attacking the zone in the same way. Now all of a sudden you can see, like, you can almost feel it. And I think part of what we feel as fans, I almost feel like the team's feeling it too.
I would say so. But the thing that really concerns me is that it was obvious from the first series of the year that there were problems. That first series against the Yankees, it was very much apparent how flawed the team was. And then I remember early on in the season, I was there because Sharks and Giants were playing concurrently. And the Giants scored like a run in the first and then gave up 5 in the they were up, I think it was the top of the second, they gave up 5. I think you and I just kind of looked at each other like, uh-oh, this might be a long year. And I think that's part of fans. It's like, it was so apparent early on how flawed the team was. Just that there were huge problems that were not rectified. I know we can point to some of the trades that were made early on to try and galvanize the team. It didn't work. And now it's not even a race to the finish. You're just trying to get to the finish line, put it behind you, and move on to a very unknown future. We have no idea what's going to happen with baseball next year. But I want your take on Tony Vitello, because my take has been he's not the problem, but he hasn't been the answer. In the last couple of weeks, there's been the story about him saying, think of me as your teammate, which I think is a weird thing to say. But have you gotten the sense, as some people have pointed out, that with the influx of more youngsters and fewer veterans, maybe he's been able to be more forcible with his personality, or do you think that's a contrived storyline?
I think that there's something to that. Absolutely. And I think there has been a learning curve for manager Tony Vitello throughout the course of the season. So I think part of it, him maybe, getting his voice louder, part of it is just the time passing in the season and Tony Vitello gaining more confidence as a leader of this ball club and in this clubhouse. But there's also something to be said for younger players coming in where you do feel like you have more authority and respect right out the gate, because that's the thing. When you look at some of the veterans and more experienced guys on this roster, and you bring in a manager who has 0 Major League Baseball experience, if I'm a veteran, why am I going to respect this guy? And I almost feel like on the flip side, and this is something that I've heard from all of our analysts at NBC, is that in return, Tony's almost giving too much respect to the veterans. So when Willy Adames is saying, no, I'm good, I want to go out there again, and Tony's telling him, like, no, man, you really need to take a day off. And then we learn, later on in the season, after his numbers have been beyond lackluster, career worst offensively, that he may have been dealing with the back strain for a certain amount of time. And we've all been begging for this guy to take a day off, and he hasn't done it. And Tony has said in multiple media availabilities, like, yeah, I've been trying to push him, but he just really doesn't want to come out. And like, those are the moments where you need a manager to say, like, hey, listen, like, you got to do it. At some point, it has to be done. You need to take a day off. You need to da-da-da. I know him recently going on the IL was something that Tony said was a little bit of a fight with him. But I think that those things aren't surprising to me for someone who is a brand new manager who's only ever managed college kids, because at the end of the day, those are kids, and there is an inherent level of respect. You are an authority figure versus walking into a big league clubhouse with guys who've been in the league for a decade, and you're this guy brand new with no experience. Like, it's a different dynamic. And so I personally do not think the record is reflective of Tony Vitello's managerial abilities per se, but I think that it should be expected with a brand new manager with no Major League Baseball experience. I mean, this was a huge risk by Buster Posey. You have to assume there's going to be a transition period and a learning curve for him to kind of find his voice in the clubhouse and to figure out how to manage some of those veterans and earn some of those guys' respect and develop those relationships. The only kind of weird question mark here is coming into the season where the expectation was to make a playoff push. It's an interesting hire to hire a guy with 0 Major League Baseball experience, is going to have to go through some of that in his first season. versus you'd expect that more from a team that was accepting more of a rebuild year. And that's not what the messaging was from Buster Posey coming into the season. Like, this was expected to be a very competitive team that has not lived up to what the internal expectations were. But I just think there's a juxtaposition there between the managerial hire and then that we're being told.
Especially when it was said that Vitello was going to be a galvanizing force, that he was going to get in people's faces, that he was going to be the guy that was not as chill as Bob Melvin. And I think Bob Melvin's a great manager, but it was so weird to never see Vitello as that guy that was sparking things. I think that's the other problem why fans feel a disconnect is like, wait, I thought this guy was going to be a little bit more of a rah guy, a little bit more just energetic. And instead, he's been very passive. And this is just my own take, but the way he stands on the rail, I just feel like, man, you don't look forceful or assertive. Like, I feel he's got a very passive body language that needs to change going into his second year of managing, whenever that is.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. And I think that, we did hear from Buster Posey over and over and over again. I'm actually someone who comes from working in the college space. I've covered the College World Series the last couple of years prior to being at NBC. I worked with the Big Ten Network and I actually watched Tony Vitello. And it's funny because the personality was totally different to me at Tennessee. Like, you saw a manager who was pretty passionate and fiery, and you saw him like celebrating. I just think from watching him at the college level, I feel like I saw more of who he is than what I have seen of him with the Giants. And again, I just think that goes back to him stepping into this new role and there being a little bit of him being uncomfortable, which again is why to me, it's maybe just the fact that the expectation of what we were told from Buster and him, like you said, being somebody who's going to galvanize, who's going to come in with this huge personality, just doesn't match what to me is realistic for a first-year manager with zero Major League Baseball experience. Like, to me, I don't blame Tony for not being 100% comfortable. Like, you're walking into a brand new situation, a league that you have never worked in. Like, this is someone who has not only never played in Major League Baseball, never worked on any Major League Baseball staff, and you're now trying to coach grown men compared to 18, 19, 20-year-old kids. Like, to me, it wasn't a big surprise, but I can tell you that I have seen fire from Tony Vitello and different body language when he was coaching at the college level. And my hope is that now going into next year, that there is a big step forward for Tony in terms of the growth, because we do know the organization said they're bringing him back. I'm hoping that we see more of that. But to me, like I said, I don't blame him. I more so go like, that to me is not a realistic expectation right out the gate for this guy to come in and be like, guns a-blazing, and to immediately just like, this is his first time doing something. Like, that's to me where the disconnect comes in. Like, I get it from Tony. I'm like, but what we were hearing from the other side doesn't, like, to me, match what is realistic for a first-year manager.
The stands were mostly full this year, even though the Giants have been abysmal in terms of these standings. How much do the Giants have to work to kind of resell themselves to the fans who are going to be buying that next batch of season tickets, or trying to have faith in Buster Posey and the entire front office that they can put together a quality baseball team? Because if you look at all the language that went through the last offseason, we saw that Buster was kind of full of bravado and he wanted to bring in some guys. We expected them to be more offensively minded with a full year of Devers, but everyone was saying the bullpen's a problem, the pitching's a problem. That wasn't rectified. I mean, I'm not here to be like, I told you so, guys, but it was like the entire fan base saw the problem, Buster. You didn't. Like, you have to prove yourself still, even though you were a legend.
Yeah, there is more frustration than we've seen in a really long time from this fan base for that exact reason. After this blown lead against the Reds, I just tweeted out a couple of stats that were just brutal. I mean, leading Major League Baseball in blown leads in the 9th inning. We lead Major League Baseball in walk-off losses. Throughout the course of the season, they've been, I think they're second right now in blowed leads when leaving after the 7th inning. Like, this isn't a shock. The bullpen is the biggest problem. The offense got off to a slow start, but the bullpen is the biggest problem. And I think that's why so many fans are more frustrated than we've ever seen, is because everyone said this last offseason and it was not addressed. And now you're reaping what you sow in terms of the numbers that I just mentioned. In when this offense scores 9 runs, they deserve to win. But if you don't have the players in the bullpen with the experience or the stuff or whatever it is, then you're not going to be able to put together wins. But I just look at, how different the season might have been with a different bullpen, because the offense started off slow, but they've gotten it together. And you look at, when it's 11 blown leads in the ninth inning, 10 walk-off loss. Like, when you look at some of those numbers, and if you turn those to wins, like, you might be looking at a different season.
Yeah.
But I think the frustration is completely fair because so many people called this out going into 2026 and absolutely did not get addressed. But now I think you can't ignore it. That's what I just tweeted. I'm like, what do you say now about the bullpen? Like, it absolutely has to change. It's the number one issue with this team. But you know what? Fans have still been showing up to the ballpark. To go back to your original point that you made about this, I know some people have been frustrated with that, but like, Giants fans are ride or die. B, Oracle Park is a destination. And looking back at a summer where we had visitors from all over the world and for the World Cup, like, I can't tell you how many tourists that I see now at Oracle Park coming from all corners of the earth. So, they've still been packing them in. Fans have still been showing up, but the hope is that there will be an significantly improved bullpen going into 2027, because I think the concerns were valid, that there were not enough moves made between 25 and 26 based on the outcome that we saw last year. And now, like I said, I think the record is a little bit of reaping what you sow.
We are joined by Kylan Mills of NBC Sports Bay Area here on KNBR Sports Phone as we talk about everything going on. You're on the 49ers coverage this year with NBC Sports. I'm always the king of lazy comparisons. When Tony Vitello had that really weird press conference before the start of the season where he was like, hey, if the way you guys reported on my hiring, and he gathered the press around, it was very, very strange. It kind of set a weird tone. I don't know why he did that. And then I'm putting that against the 49ers. And the 49ers are like, you think that's a weird offseason? Like, we can go way above that. We can clear that bar. And the 49ers, whether it's Ayuk, whether it's Kyle Shanahan, and the latest stuff with Jed York. I saw a meme, and I was talking to Matt Barrows about this earlier, about it's the Babadook, where it's the mom screaming at the child in the back seat, why can't you be normal? And it's just the 49ers logo. It's like the 49ers are the king of the weird offseason. Like, it's been an incredible run for the last month of story after story. I'm so excited for us to be able to talk about football, and we're not going to get that with a preseason game. This preseason game 3 is nothing. Like, we still have to wait till they're in Australia, by the way, which is also weird.
Yeah. So weird. I will be very excited to put this offseason behind us when it comes to 49ers land, because absolutely, I just tweeted the other day, I'm like, the Bay Area sports this year have been like a soap opera. I'm like, wait, if you follow the Giants at all, it's like, a player drunkenly running his scooter into a fire truck and getting his already injured foot run over. Like, you can't write a script for that. No. Players protesting pride. It's just like, it's been such a bizarre, like, I don't even have words for how bizarre this summer has been, starting with the Giants and now leading into 49ers and all the points that you just made about the offseason. That being said, I think it will be a welcome change to focus on some football, because I know that this organization is trying to keep all of that off-field stuff separate from what's happening at training camp. And the vibe at training camp has been that, like, we who are present here are 100% focused on this. But that being said, it'll be interesting to see what happens with the Jed York situation. Are we going to see him come out and address the media at any point? Is he going to show face? Like, what is he going to let Shanahan answer the question for him? That'll be just, I don't know, something fascinating to see. But all of that being said, the vibe at training camp has been that there are high expectations for this team, and that, with some of the offseason improvements, you've got a new DC. I will say that the defense, I thought, has had a significantly better energy and just outlook this year compared to last year. A lot of people have talked about the wide receiver room will be very intriguing to watch. So I think there's plenty to be excited about, but weird isn't even the word to describe the offseason. Like, where do we even go from here and talk? I don't know. I'm looking forward to actual football being played on September 10th so we can be done talking about this, just because it's like, let's get the season here already. I'm just waiting for some other bizarre story to break at this point.
Yes, yeah. Well, I'd rather have a story break than a tendon or bone. So just
oh gosh,
that's my little joke there. So on that segue, if I put you as the grand poobah of the 49ers, the decision maker, would you or would you not have George Kittle play in week 1, even if he is medically cleared to play?
I'm holding off on George Kittle week 1. I know there's been people on both sides of this, and I get both sides, but there's also a lot of stress being put on the body to travel to Australia and then I have to perform at a high level. I think that I would feel differently if it was a game at Levi's Stadium at home. I truly believe that. I get the point that like if he's ready, he's ready. But number one, this is obviously a player that we are not wanting to rush in any way, shape, or form. Everyone's on the same page about that. But some people are like, hey, well, if he's ready for week 2, why not week 1? But to me, it's also it's so much more strenuous to travel to Australia. And as someone who has had issues myself, knees, hips, whatever else, the change in altitude and pressure on an airplane has absolutely aggravated aches and pains and things like that for me. I had surgery on a hip. So like that's something that you have to think about because that's a long flight. So how does that affect the injury? Also, you're confined to a seat. So like as someone, for example, hip and back problems, like that can start to hurt me just from sitting for hours and hours on end. Like, is that something that could be a potential aggravator? And then you also just in general, the body to me, it takes time to adjust to the time changes and the travel, the different, again, whatever changes at altitude, you're out of your rhythm of being at home. And to me, when as an athlete, when you're more tired, you are going to be at a higher risk for injury. And to me, just not being at your peak performance. Now, the Rams and the Niners both agreed to do this. So they're both going to be on the same playing field. But when you're talking about someone who's coming back from such a major injury like that, who's now, getting up there in terms of years in football career, 30 plus, like to me, I just don't think that's a situation that's setting him up for 100% success. So like, why push it? I just think given the whole situation of going to Australia, if I'm the decision maker, I think I hold off till week 2, just because you don't know the impact that all of that travel and all those things might have for someone like fresh off of an injury, first game back. That's just my opinion.
No, I'm right there with you. And I know that people will make the counter argument of, well, he's cleared to play.
Right.
Yeah, and I get it. But I always say, I've flown extensively for sports in this country, and I've been on commercial, I've been on charter. But when you fly a long distance, and I always do this to try and acclimate myself, I get to the hotel, I go straight to the gym, and you may have noticed, I'm not a professional athlete, but even though I'm the gym bro doing curls in the squat rack, I'm exhausted. My body does not feel
1,000%.
right. Like, it doesn't matter if I got sleep on the plane or got a good night of sleep. Flying wrecks your body. And which is amazing to me that the Rams are literally flying in and flying out.
Crazy.
Because
stupid to me.
If they get a catastrophic injury, if somebody blows a knee, Achilles, whatever, everyone's going to say, it was their flight schedule. Whether or not that's accurate, we'll never know, but that's what everyone's going to say. Just like the 49ers getting there early, people are going to say, they got there early they were there too early, and that's what led to the injury. It's like, Mike, it's crazy that this is even a discussion.
Yeah, I totally agree. No, I'm glad that you agreed with me because, not just the time change, but just in general, everything about travel wears down the body. And there's so many different studies and statistics you can watch. I know I've had doctors tell me because traveling for an injury or traveling for a living as a sports broadcaster, it affects blood flow. It affects your ability, CO2 intake, all of those things. I've been told you have to wear compression socks because of the impact that it has just on circulation. Like there's so many little things and ways that being at altitude, and especially for that long of a time, affects you. Like there's a reason why you feel tired. I feel the same way as someone who has to travel cross country at times. And again, that's 4 or 5 hours, not going to Australia. That's traveling from, the West Coast to the East Coast of the US. And I don't know that people realize like how taxing it is to travel that long of a distance. And to me, again, that's where like the risk is bumped up a little bit because when you're not at your peak and you're not as well rested as you want to be and blah, 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 the risk just gets a tiny bit higher. And for someone coming off an Achilles injury, like why do that? When you can just wait till week 2. But I'm 100% in step with you, but I get the point that he's cleared, but also I really think that people sometimes overlook how that affects the body straight up. And as someone who's experienced it and talks to professional athletes, everyone says it. I think it's impressive even for athletes that play professional sports here in the US when they fly cross country and they play the next day. I'm like, dude, like how? And I hear it all the time. It's like, oh yeah, man, I felt like crap, like whatever, but you just kind of go through it. But for someone coming off an injury and flying to Australia, like let's not risk it. This is a man who's so important to this team that we want weeks 2 through the end of the season, however long the playoff run goes. Like to me, I'm not pushing it.
What is your number one question for the 49ers this year that you need to see answered early on as a final?
Ooh, that is a great question, Ted. I think that there's a lot of things. Number one, I definitely have concerns about what's going to happen with the left guard position. I think that, get solidifying the offensive line is going to be huge to get Brock Purdy more time. I'm also intrigued to see what kind of options that he has at the wide receiver position. I think we need to see better numbers than what we saw. It was a subpar year for the passing game. And with Kyle Shanahan's offense, you have to have complementary. You have to be able to run the football, and you have to have an air attack. And I have concerns about Mike Evans' ability to sustain a large amount of, so that's maybe one of my big question marks. Is Mike Evans is kind of the marquee signing of the offseason, the individual who's supposed to really be, the head of the snake in terms of this wide receiver room. And we've already seen a training camp where he has spent more time off the field than on it, dealing with injuries, dealing with muscle things. So I think that's a big concern for me, because let's say we take Mike Evans out of the position, out of the equation, like, who's your go-to wide receiver? To me, Deshaun Stribling. Now you're looking at a rookie who's maybe the most complete and versatile option in the pass game. I think Deebo Samuel definitely is someone who's intriguing, but again, like him coming back, so I think seeing the way that the wide receiver room shapes out is a big one for me. Mike Evans, is he going to be able to stay healthy and stay on the field? Because he's got to be on the field to make an impact. And I think there's very legitimate concerns based on his history, the age, and now what we've already seen in training camp about that being a possibility. Defensively, I feel good about where the team is at. I like defensive coordinator Raheem Morris. I think that it's going to be a big positive. The way that he's been able to, he mixes up and changes what they do in the front seven and he's just a little bit more deceptive, masking things. That's not something we've seen the last couple of years for the 49ers. And at the end of the day, you're going to be able to challenge offenses better when you are presenting different fronts. And that's only going to make things better for the secondary, who's talked about how they're playing more free. They're really more so reacting to what comes their way. So I think the biggest question maybe will start with Mike Evans' health. And then I think the left guard position, it's been a 3-horse race, but I think that they need to shore up the offensive line and someone has to step up in that position. But I think I have concerns based on what we've seen from the 3 guys and no one really grabbing hold of that spot.
Awesome. Well, Kyle and I let you go. You've been very generous with your time, as I just looked at him and said, I've had her on here forever. But thank you as always. I look forward to seeing you either at NBC or at Levi's or at somewhere, maybe the Shark Tank, maybe PayPal Park, somewhere soon. So I'll make sure that I come and bug you.
Todd, it's always great to chat with you. You're one of my favorites. You do great work. I will definitely see you in one of those places. I want to get out to a Sharks game this year, though. So we'll talk after this, because the Shark Tank's going to be rocking this year. So have a great season and we'll chat soon.
Again, that is Kylan Mills, NBC Sports Bay Area on Giants, and now part of the Niners coverage as well. We're going to take a quick break. On the other side, we're going to go more 49ers talk with Matty Barrows of The Athletic. You're on Sports Phone, KMBR.
time is the right time for Sports Phone KNBR. Let's go on the Sports Leader. Streaming live on YouTube at KNBR 1045.
All right, we're now joined on Sports Phone KNBR by the one and only Matt Barrows of The Athletic. Matty Barrows, what's going on, man? How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Always something going on, Ted. Always something non-football, it seems, going on with the 49ers.
I saw of the many, many memes that came out since the Jed York story broke. It was a scene cut from the movie The Babadook where the mom is screaming at the kid in the back seat saying, "Why can't you be normal?" And it's just the 49ers logo in the back seat. It's just everything, man. I mean, I always make lazy cross sports comparisons, but with the Giants this past year, Tony Vitello set things on a really weird course at spring training by having a very odd press conference. And I feel like the Niners as a franchise, like, we can go way above and beyond that.
Yeah, hold my beer on this one.
Because we've had some odd preseasons with the 49ers any number of times, but this is like peak oddness, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it started out with John Lynch saying that he wasn't going to field any questions about Brandon Ayuk. Remember, back in July, Brandon Ayuk was the big story, and then it was Kyle Shanahan was the big story, and now both of those are on the back burner because the owner is the big story. And then lurking behind everything always is the injury issue and the substation questions and this, that, and the other. But those are the big four tent poles that kind of prop up the 49ers off season.
Man, and this latest one with Jed York, and we're recording this interview about an hour after the body cam footage was released from the arrest. Nothing major there, just, a guy getting arrested. But just the entirety of the story, I mean, there's a part of me that feels bad for the guy because, listen, he's going through a divorce, people get lonely. I get it from that standpoint, but at the same time, I get the ick factor just like I did with the Bob Kraft story because it's like, why are you doing this? There are different things available to you. It's just, I don't know. Like, am I weird for getting the ick at this entire story?
No, in fact, if you watch the body cam footage, the police officers involved say the same thing. I mean, they find all this cash in his wallet. I got the impression that he was saying on the text messages that he was in real estate. And so they think that he's, at that point, a guy who's in real estate. They don't recognize him as the owner of the 49ers, but it's clear that he's got cash to spend. And one of the police officers says, I can't believe that these rich guys do this. There's so much, else that they can be doing with their money. Yeah. Which is, I think a reaction that a lot of people had. You can't get inside the guy's skin. He's living in Boardman, Ohio. Boardman, Ohio, which I think is probably very descriptive. So, I mean, things are already topsy-turvy for him. I thought it was interesting in this body cam video that they find two cell phones in his car. One he was using to allegedly kind of create this hookup, and then the other one has got his sons on the photo on the face of the camera. Just kind of puts everything into perspective. I think it's a good image that shows just how discombobulated his life is right now.
The York family in their time as the stewards of this franchise, obviously after the Eddie D scandal and there's the transition of power, things were weird for a while, and you went through, Denny Erickson and Mike Nolan and Singletary and Harbaugh, and it seemed like, you got the stadium built, but then the post-Harbaugh era was Jed York front and center. But he did a very good job, in my opinion, for all the criticism he got for the Harbaugh years and, both Tom Sula and Chip Kelly. Like, he's realized, like, hey, I'm going to step back. I'm going to get out of the way. I'm going to empower my guys. I think he's been a good steward of the franchise or quote unquote owner. I know that it's not as clear when the family power structure is in there, but I actually thought, hey, Jed learned, get out of the way, delegate. You don't have to do this all on your own. And that can be seen in the franchise success they've had since the hiring of both John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan. And now it seems like that's all thrown up in the air again. And I don't expect there to be any punishment for Jed York. And anybody, when they bring it up, I'm like, I can cite various instances that show me there's not going to be much out of this. But I feel like he had done a really good job for the better part of the last decade. And I feel like that all that goodwill doesn't go far enough with everyone who seemingly want to put him to the fire immediately.
I remember doing an interview with Eddie DeBartolo back when Jed was just starting to take over the organization, do more of the day-to-day stuff. And this is in the early 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
And the quote that I just remember Eddie saying is that he needs to get bloodied up a bit, but he'll be fine. And bloodied up means, you need to be, taken through the ringer. You need to have some unsuccessful teams. You need to be criticized. You need to be excoriated in the media, all of which happened,
Yes.
happened to Eddie early on too. Remember, he had a 2-16 team on his hands, or 2-14 team on his hands early on, and then he found Bill Walsh and Joe Montana, and
That helps.
that helps. But and it took Jed longer than that, but he eventually found Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, and that has brought stability to this organization. And that's, that was the lesson that he learned over and over again, or the lesson that all of the mistakes and the struggles led to, is that you need to have two guys that complement each other and that get along with each other. And he found that, and I think that allowed him the license, or it made him feel like he could step back and let these guys take over. And that's what he's done. And it's been successful. And that sort of ironically is why, when Kyle Shanahan is asked, how's this going to affect the team? His answer is, I care about Jed York and I don't want to see him going through this. But as far as the product on the football field, it's not going to affect it much, if at all, because he wasn't hands-on. And that's what you want from an owner. You want him to feel secure enough in the guys that he's hired that he can step away.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's the juxtaposition with that and the stories of Jerry Jones having to be physically restrained from drafting guys. I mean, that could be illustrated as one of the main differences between the 49ers' successes as of late and the Cowboys not having the same level of success. When we talk punishment, though, I can cite Bob Kraft. I can look at some of the troubles that Jim Irsay had. I don't expect there to be anything tremendous changing with the 49ers power structure, right? Like, I imagine Jed York will get a tongue lashing from the NFL. This isn't like Eddie D and the Riverboat scandal, which I've heard people say, Eddie D. I'm like, yeah, but that was a different era, and that was much more different timeline with the way we viewed gambling as well as a sports society compared to now. And I don't see anything coming to this. Is that naive?
No, I mean, I agree with you. There are some people who disagree with us, though. They think that this, in conjunction with the divorce, could bring about some sort of change in the structure. I don't think so. He pled no contest to a pair of misdemeanors.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Eddie DeBartolo's was a federal case involving Edwin Edwards, a famously corrupt politician in Louisiana, over a riverboat gambling license at a time when the NFL didn't want anything to do with gambling.
Mm-hmm.
As you note, it's different now. I would say that the Irsay situation would be the most similar. And I know that Robert Kraft involved kind of a similar, act, but the charges were dropped in that case.
Mm-hmm.
So, the NFL could say, you know what, legally, he didn't really do anything wrong. Whereas, like I said, Jed York pleaded no contest. He was found guilty of these two misdemeanors. So it's there. It's been adjudicated. I don't know if it's going to take a long time to decide this. I want to say that Irsay was suspended for 6 months. couldn't attend games, couldn't go to league meetings, couldn't attend practices. That probably is the precedent that we're looking at for Jed York.
Yeah, and like we just said, I mean, I don't expect this to affect football operations in the slightest. The 49ers have obviously done a very good job of setting themselves up for success. I found them going to that line very, very quickly and easily, where you could say, to me, it was obvious that the media relations team was like, this is what we're going to say. This is what we're going to put out there. And to their credit, they're not wrong. I mean, they have had a great separation of power to where this doesn't affect anything. I just kind of chuckled at that a little bit because very much the proof is in the pudding. And I mean, it's almost the opposite, where if the owner gets in trouble and the football is affected, that speaks very, very negatively of any franchise in any sport. Or, just if it shouldn't matter. It shouldn't have any impact on things. But I know they say that the guys aren't really talking about it. Like, I don't believe that for a second. I guarantee that locker room was like, hey, did you see this? Have you, did you get these tweets? I mean, that's just life. People discuss it. I don't think they're laughing at the man or making fun of their owner, but I guarantee it's a talking point.
Oh, for sure. I mean, this is a social media world. This is the guy that signs their checks. He's there, he does the Eddie DeBartolo thing where, after a game, he's there in the threshold of the locker room, shaking hands with them as they come in. So, I mean, he's a face that they recognize. He's somebody I think that they like. Yeah, for sure, it's been discussed. I can only imagine there's some banter, locker room style banter going on about it. But, their point was that, or Fred Warner's point was that training camp to them is, I'm trying to think of something that people can relate to, like finals week in college. You are, you're exhausted. You are laser focused on whatever it is that you're doing that day. There's not a lot of time for extracurricular stuff. So I think that's probably true in a way, especially for a nice chunk of the roster who are playing their final preseason game tomorrow night, and then they go immediately into cut down day. They have to trim the roster to 53 men on Sunday night, and then on Wednesday they get on a plane and go to Melbourne. So it's whirlwind, and this organization has to do all of this, make all these decisions faster than all 31 other teams, and I'm including the Rams in this because they're parachuting into Melbourne a day before the game. The 49ers are taking a much, much longer, more deliberate approach to it. But that means they have to have their week one lineup, or at least an idea of what it's going to be on Wednesday when they board that plane.
What are you expecting to see out of this final preseason game against Vegas?
Nothing. I'm not expecting to see a damn thing. I mean, I think that they hope that they just get out of it without any injuries. There's certain guys that they want to see play more snaps. Carver Willis at left guard. I mean, he's going to start again at left guard after starting against the Chargers. I think that's an indication that they want him to get as many snaps as possible this summer. I think it's also an indication that they believe in him and they think that he's getting better with all these snaps. Now, whether that ultimately means he's on the field in Melbourne when the game begins, I don't know. I can see a platooning situation. Chris Foerster loves to platoon guys. Yeah. So if Robert Jones, who's the most senior member of that group, is back, definitely can see a situation where he plays 2 series. Carver Willis comes in and plays 1 series, like they did a few times in the past decade or so at that position, at guard. Jaden Duggar is another rookie that I think that they want to see get a lot of snaps because he could be on the field too against the Rams, especially if the Rams are using 3 tight ends like they did in the second matchup last year. And the 49ers just had no answers for that. He would be an answer. He's kind of specifically built to cover tight ends. So those 2 guys are interesting. They want to get young guys out there. Alfred Collins would be interesting to me because I think he needs snaps too. After missing all of the spring and some of the summer, and he hasn't played well in the first his first preseason game. I think that's to be expected just because he's been off for so long. But it's another guy that you just want to see get reps and just get into regular season mode as quickly as possible.
Is pass rush, have you seen anything that will alleviate your concern about that? Is that still, in your opinion, something the 49ers are going to evaluate as they get into the season and see what adjustments, and by adjustments I mean signings, they need to make?
They were great against the Titans, but not so great against the Chargers. Yeah. The Titans could have one of the worst offensive lines in the league. I think that Raheem Morris will kind of account for some of that, but at some point it's window dressing. You don't have the talent out there, and we haven't seen Nick Bosa since August 3rd. Romello Height has been, at best, hot and cold. He's dealing with an ankle injury right now. He's not going to play on Thursday. He's somebody that they would love to see play Thursday. Maybe he will. And other than that, we're talking like Keon White, Sam Okuanu.
Yeah.
It's not any better than last year. In fact, you can make a good argument that it's worse than last year. Somehow their neediest position got worse over the offseason. So, yeah, I think that they'd jump at adding somebody. I don't know who they would add at this point. Joey Bosa, Leonard Floyd would be two names that jump out.
Yeah, no, I just feel like they're doing the let's see what we have before we do anything. And I'm just thinking in this hyper competitive division, of which I saw them last year specifically against Seattle, just get out physical, kind of manhandled late in the season and in the playoffs. It's like, this might not be one that you want to wait on, but they know better than I. I saw The Athletic, by the way, had an article about the 10-year anniversary of Colin Kaepernick's protest. If memory serves me correct, wasn't it you who tweeted out, hey, Colin Kaepernick didn't stand for the anthem? Weren't you the one who first kind of noticed that he wasn't up for it in a preseason game?
I did notice. I was trying to keep it under my hat, however, so that I could take him aside and like have the scoop of the century. And so I noticed obviously at the beginning of the game, and it didn't take long for it to come out. So no, I don't think I was the first one to publicly put it out there. I was alerted that, hey, watch Colin Kaepernick. He didn't stand for these last two preseason games. See what he does this time. And I saw that he wasn't standing. I think he was sitting.
Yeah.
By the
because he later met with the either Army Ranger or Navy SEAL who had him kneel as opposed to just sit.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Boyer, Nate Boyer. I forget.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
But anyway, I knew about it. I was hoping that I could pull him aside and get the story. But that's not how the news works these days, Ted. You gotta strike while the iron's hot.
Is that going to go down as one of the more odd stories that you've ever covered, just in the sense that his stats when he came back at the end of the year showed he could clearly still play in the NFL, but nobody wanted to touch him, even if he could play? Just that, for some reason, that was the red line for every NFL franchise?
Yeah, that was frustrating. It's you understand it now that people make the truth what they want it to be, and there were all these false ideas that were out there about him, that he turned down a contract from the 49ers, he turned down a contract from the Denver Broncos. There were half a dozen just things that just get posted out there, and then it becomes gospel. And you can write as many times as you want. No, I was there. I interviewed these guys. That's not how it was. It doesn't matter in this day and age, Ted. The truth is what you want the truth to be. So he was an early victim, I think, of that. I'm sure people are pounding their fist right now and saying this has been happening for a long, long time.
Yeah.
But on a national stage with the 49ers, that was the biggest one that I've encountered.
Yeah, no, just crazy. Just because like I said, I saw there was a piece on The Athletic and it said, God, a decade. Like it just flew by like that. And I guess that's just because we've been so wrapped up in the 49ers in the Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch era, which came in right thereafter and ushered in a very, very new era that allowed the 49ers very quickly to move on from that which had defined the previous season. But yeah, a decade flies by in the blink of an eye. But Maddie, you've been very generous with your time as always, and I will let you go, man. But I appreciate your insights as always, and I'm sure I'll be bugging you again soon. All right, man?
Sounds good. Ted, I love what you're doing with your hair. I think it looks fantastic. But thank you for having me on.
Yes, well, I'll let everyone know we might go to the same barber. There might be a little bit of an insight there. Great stuff there with Matt Barrows of The Athletic joining us here on Sports Phone KMBR. We are going to take a quick break, and on the other side, we're going to talk about some of the zaniness coming out of college football right now in terms of this pro ban, where if you get drafted and you don't make the team, even though college sports is no longer an amateur league, the guys get paid via NIL. They're going, no pro. Kind of like the no Pro Bowl. Ugh, bad joke, Ramey. All right, Kyle Bonagura of ESPN on the other side. You're on Sports Phone KNBR. Hooah!
Sports Phone KNBR keeps rolling live from the KNBR Casino Matrix Progressive Jackpot Studios. Casino Matrix Progressive Jackpots are here. Where are you? Just drop in. Please play responsibly. 1-800-GAMBLER.
All right, we are now joined on Sports Phone KNBR by the one and only Kyle Bonagura of ESPN. KB, what's going on, man? How are you doing?
I'm doing good, Ted. How are you?
Just rolling with everything that the NCAA is rolling minute after minute here, day after day. We've got the Big 12 banning pros across all sports. They're linking up with the Big 10. They've got the SEC saying they're going to suspend coaches if you add pros back to this. NCAA defectors can't play in the NFL till 2026. When the original language came out from the SEC, though, they were like, pros are pros and they can't come back. I was just kind of like, how do we even define this anymore? And I just, not even hypocritical, just kind of silly, because like there's so many coaches that have gone back and forth from the pros to the college ranks when I'm not really even sure how we define amateurism anymore when guys are getting paid through NIL. I just find it all very confusing.
Yeah, the evolution of college sports, it would take years to unpack to try to even begin to understand, because you can't really do it. I mean, there's been incremental change going on in the sport for 150 years, and I think, like, bottom line, the sport got too popular for its own good. Like, it started as this novel idea of schools, teams representing their schools in intercollegiate athletics, like in the same way they do at the high school level, right? That's basically what it was supposed to be. But when things started escalating and you're filling up stadiums with 100,000 people, and you have, now billion-dollar media rights deals or multi-billion-dollar media rights deals, and coaches making over $10 million a year, like, the idea that this was amateur sports is clearly laughable. And so I think once, I don't know when the point of no return was, but we passed it a long time ago. And so the NCAA through that process has done, did everything in its power to fight that evolution, right? And to keep it what it always was. And it was just misguided to try to pretend that was reality with that much money coming in. And then once these issues started getting into the courts, these judges who, didn't really care about the tradition of college sports were ruling like these kids obviously have the right to earn money. And it's really opened the floodgates for all of these changes and machinations. And now here we are with players theoretically bouncing between the NFL and college. I mean, I don't think it's going to actually happen, but the idea that, there were coaches and teams trying to get that across the line is just another bizarre evolution in the sport.
What did you think, though, of the SEC statement? Because I still, when they say pros are for the pros, I just I'm like, what does that even mean? Like, what are even them basing that statement on? Because it's not like these guys have played in NFL games. It's not like they have made that ascension to the next step of their career. Is the only different that where they've signed their name temporarily on a dotted line? Is that the basis for it? And is that leading us towards another round of lawsuits?
Yeah, I just think, I mean, probably the easiest way to explain that is like it was just not a very well thought out statement to say that because I mean they kind of backtrack pretty quickly. I mean the SEC, you know, LSU was the school pushing the envelope and they're from the SEC and they like this was opened up by a court ruling about 5 and 5 and there was a temporary restraining order and an injunction that would allow this player to seek his 5th year despite having already declared for the draft in the NFL. He was in a camp, all of those things. And when a court ruled that like he should have the option to go back, you know, it was LSU who kind of opened its doors and Lane Kiffin saying like, look, if this is the rule, like if someone's going to do it, you have to do everything you can to kind of stack your roster with as much talent as possible. And while like I understand the sentiment, like they were the ones who were pushing it. So the SEC then was forced to respond. It clearly didn't want as a conference this to happen, but like I think they were hesitant to make anything make any big changes or be the first conference to really take a stand. Like as soon as the Big Ten announced the next day that they were going to ban, they were going to go completely outlaw it, the SEC fell in line pretty quickly and followed suit and announced the harsher penalties, but it just took some time for that to happen. And now the Big 12 is following suit. I think the ACC is there, and we're not actually going to see players on NFL rosters jump back to the college game, but we'll see how things play out in the courts, right? If eventually enough judges rule that it is okay at a certain point, you have to wonder like what these conferences in the NCAA will do.
Well, I just wonder if there's ever a process down the line where a Notre Dame who's not affiliated with a conference could see a situation where, hey, maybe we can improve our roster this way. And I'm just playing devil's advocate because I know that there's a lot of mitigating circumstances right now, but what is anything preventing them from doing that?
I don't think so. No, there's not. These are all conference rules at this point. So like, I mean, Notre Dame, it's an example that works because they're not in a conference, but I do think they're like kind of falling in line as well. Because I think you're just going to get so much pushback. Say like, look, the Pac-12 has kind of evolved and it's kind of has a new place in the sport. What if it says, hey, we'll allow it? Mm-hmm. They don't necessarily have the money to pay those guys what they would like make it worth their while to come back necessarily. And then if that were to happen, I imagine you would see those other conferences be like, look, then we're just not going to play you. Right. And so even if they wanted to do that, like I don't think any of these conferences are going to make the decision to pursue those. I just think everyone's going to kind of looks at it the same way. But like, is there anything to stop them? Like not right now officially, other than just like, being publicly shamed, which is a pretty effective tool.
The other part of this that I found pretty funny is that when the SEC released that statement initially, it was kind of like they were saying, hey, we want to go back to when we had more control. And I thought like that's been kind of their whole messaging, like the subtext of what these messages are saying is that they clearly liked it better how they had it before. They don't like what it's turned into. And my reaction to that is like, well, yeah, that's because as a whole, college sports kicked a can down the road 40 years and said, we'll deal with it later. And lo and behold, it wasn't exactly a clean process when all was said and done.
Right. No, that's right. And I think a lot of it is that it's just harder now to run college sports. It's hard to, chase players as free agents. It's hard to monitor all the different NIL guidelines that are in place and make sure that they're, you're applying those appropriately and raising the necessary funds to be competitive. Like before, when you were able to just sign a recruiting class and you knew you had those guys for 4 to 5 years. And if they wanted to transfer, well, you got to sit out a year. So, good luck with that. It wasn't as much of a threat to lose players. And so now it's much more similar to professional sports. Well, rosters will reset, have the potential to reset every year. Players can, transfer without sitting out. That makes it retainment very much a part of the sport now. Money plays a role in that. And so there's just a lot more going on. And so if you're an athletic director 10 years ago, you had a pretty good job. Of course, it was still, a lot of responsibility and a big boy job and all those things, big girl job, I guess, as well. that was all true, but now it's just so much more complicated. And so I think a lot of it is just like how these people want to operate professionally, coaches, administrators, people in positions of power. The more it trends towards professional sports, like the more difficult those jobs become, and less of the resources can be allotted to the people in those positions. And I think that absolutely plays a role.
At what point is this trending towards a separation from the scholastic aspect of it? Like, I know we're there in essence, but like, it just feels like what we're talking about is essentially a minor league then.
Yeah, it's for sure a minor league. And I think eventually you get to a point where football for sure, oh, maybe not for sure, but I think this is like there's a good chance this happens. You can't say anything's for sure. It's just so hard to predict, is that you could just have teams representing the schools, and the players might not necessarily even have to be students. They're just employees of the school in a way that the coaches are, or, any campus employee is, right? If you work at the bookstore, if you work, on beautification of the camp, whatever it might be, right? You just become an employee. I think that's possible. I think it's possible that like the athletic departments are sold off to private equity, and you just keep the school branding and the facilities, and it just completely operates separately. I think like that's possible. Like there's so many ways this could go. And then you wonder, how does the eligibility component change if and when it gets to that point, right? Yeah. Do you have 4 or 5 years of eligibility like it has always been? Or is it just truly another professional league where, look, if you're on the team, you're on the team for as long as the player and the team wants you? I could see that happening, because the thing is, like, I'm not convinced the popularity of college sports is in any way tied to the scholastic aspect of the students anymore. Mm-hmm. And I used to feel a little bit differently about that, but I just think you're kind of rooting for a jersey. And look, if it's still representing a school by being on campus and with the uniform and all those things, I think that's probably enough. And if they're playing, if they're playing football, like it's not a hard thing to sell, football in the United States on a Saturday, like it's pretty easy to market that and get people to get excited about that. And so who knows for sure, but I can certainly, again, just can certainly imagine a world in where those things could become possible.
Well, this is what gets me to the next point is we talk about, it's a jersey. I've always said that the closest thing that we have to the EPL in the United States is SEC football, just because it's so strongly tied to the geography. There's the history. There are literal cultures baked into the fandom that, in my opinion, are only relatable to the EPL just for the sake of history. But I mean, then it starts to really seem like we're talking about a tiered system in North American football, which so many fans here in the United States would almost talk about. Not that promotion relegation would be a thing, but that if you are going to have players that could stay on beyond eligibility, that, even though it would keep these teams competitive potentially longer, if you have a quarterback who's not going to translate to the NFL game well, but could keep you as a top team in college football, why wouldn't you hold on to them? But then does the NFL then get ticked off that the entirety of their development system could then be impacted, because then you've got players that are staying longer than they otherwise would have? I mean, this is where it starts to get really interesting about what college football really even is 10 years from now.
Yeah, no, it's all fascinating to kind of game out the different possibilities, because like you said, I've always advocated for players being able to get paid, because I think the quarterback analogy is good, because like you have a guy who is really valuable, right? He might be one of the best players in college football, but his game doesn't translate to the NFL, but it does translate to the. Yeah, he's a perfect example, right? Yeah. He could have remained at Florida for a long time and been effective and generated a ton of revenue for that school and that program and all of those things. Like, he had a lot of like true value there. Yeah. But there's a shelf life. And so, like he deserved to get paid while he was there, because he wasn't, I guess he made a little bit of money on the back end, but there are other players like him who weren't going to profit off that very specific skill of being a quarterback in the same way later. So I always thought it was fair that they should be able to capitalize in that window. If you're good enough to be at the college level and be a high level performer, but weren't quite good enough for the NFL. It's a kind of a weird spot to exist, and so that's from that perspective. I always thought that like the NIL stuff was pretty logical.
Is this in any way, and again, we're talking to Kyle Bonagura of ESPN here on Sports Phone KNBR, is this in any way pushing things more towards a quote-unquote super league in college football so that they do have more control, or there's more of an argument for it at least?
I don't know if the latest developments are necessarily more of a push or less of a push or any sort of impact, but I do think it's like slowly just creeping in that direction, because I talk about this people all the time. We're seeing it, right? The Pac-12 collapsed. The Power 5 became the Power 4 for financial reasons, right? Washington State and Oregon State get left behind. At a certain point, you have to wonder, like all these schools are making decisions based on money. Like that's obvious. We can all understand that, and it is what it is. Like, at what point does the SEC say, yeah, I don't know if Vanderbilt is necessarily a net add for us. Like, if we were to cut them and pick one other, lower performing, school from the conference, like, does our revenue go down? Like, probably not. So then the pie, gets distributed. You get more of the pie if you're one of the remaining schools, and you're one of the schools that are like really generating the value for the conference. And that theory applies across the board, right? There's several in the Big Ten at the bottom, Purdue, Maryland, Rutgers, schools like that, like, look, they don't have the same value as Ohio State, Michigan, USC, Oregon, the teams that are, bigger brands now and more successful on the field. Like, you get down the line, right? You could solely understand a world where, look, those schools at the top of the Big Ten, and you take the top of the SEC. What if they were to be like, let's just create a new league? And it would certainly be a super league. Like, what would prevent that from happening? I think there is some traditional loyalty that exists still to a certain degree, but like, if these schools can double their money, triple their money, like, at what point is it so much money that you can't say no? And I think like that can happen, maybe will happen. But again, there's just so many moving pieces here to really be able to forecast exactly what can happen. But there's just nothing that's going to prevent it. I mean, the Save College Sports Act that's trying to go through, through the legislative process right now, could slow that down. But like, look, administrations change, those acts can be amended and changed. So I don't necessarily think that anything that happens this year, next 5 years represents some sort of permanent change to the way the sport operates.
The problem with the Super League for me in its essence is that you're assuming that there will be never be another team that can up their game, that can have a brilliant head coach that can 25 years ago, who was talking about Boise State? Like, that was not part of the college football landscape. They made themselves part of the college football landscape. And essentially, and I know this is the same argument that people use for promotion relegation, but I mean, it gets fascinating. It also presumes that every recruiting class nails it, and that you're always going to have the best talent, that nobody's going to develop a little bit later at another school and then turn into a force. It's Trey Lance notwithstanding. I mean, like, that does happen. Like, guys, not everybody has a path out of high school that puts them right in the heartbeat of the SEC to turn into the next Heisman winner. Like, there is a pathway for guys.
Yeah, I mean, Indiana for sure is, the losingest program in college football history, is now the current reigning national champion as this era kind of is underway. The major change now is that programs can't develop players anymore. You have to reset every year. And so you have to really catch lightning in a bottle and kind of get lucky, because if someone starts at a lower level school, say some stud, out of the Bay Area, for whatever reason, doesn't get recruited, doesn't get seen. Maybe he's at a smaller high school. It just doesn't go to camps, those sort of things, ends up at San Jose State, right? And runs for 2,000 yards as a true freshman, just because he's that good. Like, he's not going to be at San Jose State the next season, right? And so maybe they'll get to benefit from him for a year where he's surrounded by maybe not as great talent. Then he's off to Alabama or off to Texas or whoever writes the biggest check. So it's very difficult now to develop players in college football. You do have to find talent in the transfer portal. I think there's a lot of it kind of self levels to a certain extent, because in the past you would have all the big time recruits would go to the big time programs and then stay there for years. Yeah. And a lot of them didn't pan out. Right. where some of them would have panned out, but they just, there was just so much talent that they never saw the field because maybe you would have been an NFL quarterback, but you were behind another NFL quarterback. I mean, shoot, Matt Castle, when he was at USC, was behind Matt Leinart and then, never really plays at USC and ends up having a much longer, more productive NFL career than Leinart did. And he was the big star. And there could have been other examples like that of guys who never got the chance to show what they could do at the pro level because they just never beat out the guy in front of him who might have been a really good player. And maybe they were scared to transfer because they didn't want to sit out for a year. But now it's so easy to transfer. And not only that, you can get money quickly to go do that. I do think you'll see a lot of bounce backs where guys who maybe they start at a big school, doesn't work out, then you end up at a smaller school and get a chance to play. And so from that, I do like how that it does self-level a little bit, and the best players are theoretically going to go find a place where they're playing and not sitting. But that's one of the few silver linings in how this whole thing works.
KB, I appreciate your time as always, so I'll let you go, but I'll bug you soon. All right, man?
All right. See you, Ted.
Again, that is Kyle Bonagura of ESPN joining us here on Sports Phone KNBR. And that about wraps it up for our show tonight. A big thanks to Kylan Mills. A big thanks to Kyle Bonagura, who you just heard, and Matt Barrows for coming on tonight and talking about a lot of stuff that we got into. Of course, college football, Giants, 49ers specifically. And a big thanks to Raph for running a phenomenal show at the KNBR studios there. So, good night, everyone. I'm back with you on the 2nd and 3rd next week. So I'm already working on booking some guests and getting some great stuff going for that night. So we will have some fun. And, be safe, everyone. I'll see you next time. For The Cloud, I'm Ted Ramey, signing off.